And I believe we are live now. Sorry. This is Polygon Issuance number 90. We're going to get started in a little bit because I had to do that because we're just going to cause a little bit of trouble. Come on. Where is... what I might do is boom, 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 boom. So for anybody who heard the first about 20 seconds of this thing, try and find out what that's from. And if you do, I'd be very surprised that you would know what that's from. So, and if you do know it, then you might have been watching the same thing I was watching when I started this. Let me update Twitter. Live now, not live not. Live not.
Hello.
Hello, Matthew.
How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing okay.
Me too.
But I was telling you, because we've already started this live thing. So there is about 15 seconds at the beginning where nobody's going to have a clue what was going on. Because I had a live stream going on that has been going on for almost, well, it's been going on over 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
And I was watching that. So I decided to start this hangout and play the first about 10 seconds of it. They're about done because, unfortunately, they're actually in London. They're in the UK right now.
What's going on?
They're playing Formula 1 2015.
Oh, nice.
But, yeah, and since it's already 12:30 in the morning there, they're getting a little loopy. And some of the people are even in mainland Europe where it's 1:30 in the morning and they're still playing. So it's a bit nuts. So I've just told everybody what the stream was, but you have to go. I challenge anybody to go and look for it because they're still streaming now. But
really?
They're not streaming on Google. They're streaming on Twitch. So
I don't have that app. Yeah,
you just have to get on the computer, probably look it up or whatnot. But it's still there. So in any case, so for those wondering, because we've started the show and whatnot, and it's been, gosh, 3 weeks since I did my last one. And about everything and anything has happened in weather in the last 3 weeks, which is what I feared was going to happen. I take a hiatus during the holidays, and what happens? Everything happens. Tornadoes, snowstorms, cold, warm, rain, snow, sleet, freezing rain, thunderstorms. Oh, and that was just where I live.
Upset viewers.
Yes, upset the viewers that we've had since in 3 weeks. We've had tornadoes, sleet, snow, freezing rain, thunderstorms, sun. We haven't had much of that. Cold weather, hot weather. Now the cold weather now because the wind's blowing at 20, 30 miles an hour and the temperature's plummeting.
Yeah, my anemometer out in the front of my house just registered about 10 minutes ago a wind gust of 28 miles an hour. So it's going to get nasty tonight, I think, with the cold.
Yeah, the wind chills are going to drop to here because Matthew and I are both pretty much in about the same part of Iowa. But the temperatures are going to drop 2 or just below 0. Wind chills are going to be 20 below. We all want to go to Florida because it's about the only place that's going to stay warm. Maybe Southern California, but they've had snow up in the highest peaks, and even Southern California up by Big Bear and up in the tippy tops of the San Gabriels have had a little bit of snow. So, and
yeah, that's going to be It's going to be interesting how El Nino affects Central and Southern California because one of my other hobbies besides weather that I do is I'm part of a pit crew for a semi-professional drag racing team. And the first race of the year for our series, I guess you could call it, for lack of a better term, is in Bakersfield, California, the first weekend of March.
Yeah.
And they've been getting a lot of rain. And
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting how that plays out.
Yeah, because it's gonna make the drag strip, even if it's not raining, it's gonna make it slippery with a bunch of oil and whatnot.
Well,
So yeah,
they can do things to alleviate that. The thing that concerns, excuse me, the track operators and the track maintainers is all that water going into the water table
yeah,
and then seeping up over time from the bottom of the track.
yeah.
They
That
had there was a big instance of that 2 years ago in Indianapolis, Indiana, the biggest drag race of the year. It's called the U.S. Nationals,
yeah,
and there was the remnants of Hurricane Isabel, I want to say.
yeah. Some hurricane tropical
Yeah,
system. I can't remember which one.
it was the remnants of that was kind of moving northeast, recurving northeast, and the northern fringe of that, of all that moisture associated with that, clipped central Indiana, and they got dumped on with rain. It was pretty nasty. But the day after, um, they had water seeping through the track.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
If yeah, but the thing is that they need the rain. It's just that it's not going to probably do well. I'll say this for the fact before we start, and then I have to introduce because people will be like, "Who the heck are you?" But I went to a NASCAR race. Okay, I've been doing a number of NASCAR races. I went to California.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
Fontana, right?
Yeah, yeah, in Fontana. I didn't go to the road course. I went to Fontana. Fontana, Southern California, sunny, beautiful. I went to the race that had to rain. It didn't rain, but it drizzled, and they actually threw a caution because of it starting to rain. The morning that my father and I, because it was my father and I went there, we got there and parked the car, and it was drizzling that morning. Thinking, oh, good grief. I thought, really? This is supposed to be California. It's not supposed to be raining here. And then during the race, I can't remember what year it was. It was one of those years. You'd have to go back and look. You would look, because, of course, all the seats are on the front stretch. You would look directly up at the mountains, and the entire sky was pitch black almost the entire race because there was just a storm just dumping the rain just north of the racetrack right up on the mountains. And a little bit of it clipped the racetrack, and it rained for a brief time, and then it stopped. But if you were to look any direction but north, it was not what I would call sunny. It was brighter. It kept looking toward the mountains where it was pitch black, and I'm thinking, is that coming this way? I'm hoping not, because I don't want to be dumped on. That was the only, and I've been to a number of racetracks, and I'm trying to think of all of them. I've been to Talladega 3 times, Atlanta,
I'm
Texas,
jealous.
and California. And you think all the racetracks closest to me, and because we both live in about the same place, like Chicago or Indianapolis or Kentucky, or not, well, Kentucky's close enough, Kansas. I've never been to those. I go to the faraway ones. But California is the only racetrack I've been to where it rained. California. I'm sorry. That
Go
seems
figure.
odd, the California. But anyway, enough about that. California, it's raining. So, but I'll let you introduce yourself so people would know who you are.
Well, I'm Matt Chess. I currently live in Marion, Iowa, right down the road from where you are in Anamosa.
Yeah.
As far as weather is concerned, I've been a weather geek, dweeb, dork, nerd, whatever you want to call it, since I'd call it 25 years ish. I'm 33 now, so My earliest memory was watching Dr. John Hope on the Weather Channel. The first
Yeah.
memory I have of my entire life was watching him during the tropical update, which was absolutely awesome. I'd watch that for hours and hours and hours. But what really cemented my weather geekdom, per se, is the outbreak around here on March 13th, 1990.
Oh yeah.
Um, there was a small tornado that hit our town. I grew up in a little bitty town called Kelowna, Illinois, just
Yep.
just east of the Quad Cities, and a small tornado, very small, 50 yards wide, touchdown, and relocated the garage that was attached to my dentist's office and threw it um, about 1,000 feet to the southwest, which was odd to me, into my aunt and uncle's backyard. Part of it, part of the roof was lofted and carried that far in that direction into their backyard, and I always thought that was really strange.
Yeah.
And that kind of just cemented it. And I had a science teacher at the time, Mr. John Yesbeck, shout out to him, um, who really got me all the first, I guess, source material for me to get into weather, and it's literally been over ever since. Um, as far as what I do now, I don't like to call myself a chaser anymore, just because there's so much negative connotation, and I don't want any part of the
He's the
negativity of
storm
that.
tracker.
I'm a spotter.
Well,
I'm a spotter.
everybody's on this thing about tracking, so you might as well say that.
No, I don't like consultants. I don't like consultants. I don't like their advice. They don't know what it's like to be out there.
Mhm.
That's just my opinion. I'm weird though, but I like to help with the warning process. I take it pretty seriously. I try to, as much as I can, be as close to where the weather is happening as I can and still be safe. I'm not going to name names, but I'm not one of those that gets, 10 feet away from a mile wide EF4. I'm not one of those people. I just want to see what's going on so I can report it to the people that make decisions
Yeah.
and help people make the right choice as to what to do. I do that. I served 13 years in the Army National Guard. Um, this kind of on the personal side. I was artillery the entire time. That was my job. But
Yeah.
that kind of gave me my attitude towards helping people, was because I got to do a lot of that when I was deployed to Egypt in 2010/2011. In fact, I watched James Spann's live feed from literally BFE, and I can say that literally BFE, on April 27th, 2011, which was kind of horrifying and weird and cool at the same time, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But um, I've been doing it. I've been doing weather in some way, shape, or form for about 15 years, chasing, spotting, whatever you want to call it, since I've had a driver's license at 16. I'm just now starting to get really serious about it. Um, I've taken a little break from the military. Now I have my batteries recharged, and I want to get back in and pursue meteorology through that avenue. And I'm going to go for it. My goal is to hopefully become a WCM at a weather service office at some point. That
Yeah.
would be my dream job, because I like to communicate, I like to talk to people, and I like to talk about weather.
Now, while you were doing that, I had to bring up, because you talked about John Hope like, God, 20 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to bring up the tropical update, as in we have a tropical system.
Really? In January? Is it in the northern hemisphere?
Yeah, this is in the Central Pacific. Here's Hawaii. It's way down here. And it is going, because it's poly. It formed 4 days ago or 3 days ago. it's weakening right now. It's expected to turn south and head back toward the equator. Evidently, this storm is messed up.
Apparently.
Now, for those that would remember it too, if you go back, this is on in the 3-week time period that the show has been off. This here is actually the second storm in the Central Pacific in that time frame, because we had Tropical Depression 9 C, and that one formed almost at the equator. That formed at 2 degrees north. And a few days before that formed, the center of that system disturbance was actually south of the equator, spinning the way it should in the northern hemisphere. So evidently Coriolis was messed up, because Coriolis was not working. And this storm is expected to go back down toward the equator and die. So, but it's just a little oddity, because I think the Central Pacific Hurricane Center in Honolulu, they just want to take a break from this tropical weather, because they're sick of this tropical weather business. They're like, they had like 8 storms last year in the Central Pacific alone, not just including the ones that came from the Eastern Pacific, because the Hurricane Center in Miami couldn't keep those storms west of or east of 140 degrees west. So this storm is out in the middle of nowhere. It's not going to disturb anybody unless they're going to be going somewhere between Hawaii and, say, well, it would probably affect like airline flights from, say, Hawaii and to Australia, something like that. So, but you look at this, and I'll bring up the satellite if it's going to bring it up. But I mean, you look at this, and unfortunately, it's part of it, but it looks good because it has a good outflow and whatnot. But it's just very odd. And then, if that isn't bad enough, they were talking about in the Atlantic. I'm not sure it's there now. Yep, it's still there. It's right here. There's this storm that might become subtropical, and I'd have to bring up the geostationary images, because that storm that's out in the Atlantic, and it's going to bring up the Goes East satellite, so which I use from here. Come on, load. What's my internet slow again? Oh, Fluey. It wants to be slow today.
My internet pipe is being weird today, too.
Yeah. Do you have Mediacom or do you have IMON?
I have IMON. I have the fiber connection, but it's usually much, much faster than what I have been experiencing the last day or two.
Yeah, I think it's just because
everybody's inside on the internet.
Yeah, I know my Media Crapper internet's not been the greatest lately. Of course, Media Crapper internet's never the greatest. But
I would tend to agree.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at this. Well, come on. Okay. Here's this storms here and whatnot. Oh, look, California's getting hit again. But all this cold air, you can see the Missouri River. That's how cold it is. And just cold. I mean, this is, I don't
cold and snow.
Oh, well, and I'd have to mention this, and we're not even getting to the part about the tornadoes, about all the stuff that happened. We had the snow, and you would know this too. We had here the snowstorm that was like a few days after our tornadoes.
The sleet storm, I call it.
Yeah. Well, sleet and snow and gunk. Well, I live in an apartment that has a metal roof. There's a little gap that tries to keep the snow from sliding right off when it warms up. Well, there was a problem. The snow the snow and sleet we had was wet, very heavy wet. It started melting. It ripped that metal barrier completely off, and just bent it to all heck in several places on our roof. I have never seen that happen before. And they had to come back and shovel the sidewalks here again yesterday, because yesterday. No, it was the day before yesterday, because they were afraid if they didn't do it, I wouldn't have been able to get out, because the snow just piles on right by my door, since it's a multi-story building, but it's like really. And they put it back together. It's like, yeah, that's not going to work. You have to replace it. They're going to have to replace it come spring. There's nothing they can do now. But yeah, this storm, you can see the center of it right here. So this storm's going to dump snow over in Michigan, Indiana, Illinois. But here it's just the cold air. It's going to stay cold. Don't think it's going to warm up anytime soon. But
I'm not looking forward to next week as far as temperatures are concerned.
Yeah, when I did my last video that I did, which was on Friday, it was Friday during the day. I saw the models and it says, "Ooh, this cold snap's only going to last like 3 days," and then every model after that model that I used has the cold snap lasting upwards of 7 to 10 days.
Yep.
I'm like, no, I don't want it to be cold. 20 degrees for a high I can stand, but 0 or 5 or 8 or 9 or 10, no. I'm not going to stand that.
Especially when you do concrete like I do. That's my civilian job right now.
Yeah, I mean, people are going to start complaining, especially up here where we are. Wasn't El Nino supposed to be warm weather? Where's the warm weather? All I'm hearing about is that polar vortex junk. Something like that. It's like, well, I'm sorry, it's supposed to get cold because go back to the shows where I did the winter preview with several of our former guests, and they said, and I somewhat agreed with them too, that it was going to start out warm and then get colder. Well, unfortunately, we're later into the winter now, so sorry, it's going to probably stay this way. So we could end up with a cold winter, but is it going to be a snowy winter? It's all going to depend on if we get storms that are right here, like in California, that then kind of hook up like this one kind of is, but it's further to the south because the cold air is kind of pushing it south. You need ones to come from about the Texas-Oklahoma Panhandle and come up like this. This one is down here, and it's going to curve up like that. So, because this is a two-part system, we had this part's here, and then this part's here.
Yep.
It was 2 parts. We never had a break because it stayed cloudy and stayed kind of drizzly and foggy. So.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I tell everybody else. I'm a forecaster of sorts for a veterans group that's based in Anamosa. Anytime they do an outdoor event like a motorcycle ride or if we do an event at J&P Cycles, which is on Highway 151,
which is no longer there now.
Yeah. I will give the president of the group a rudimentary forecast, basically what I expect to happen during that time frame where we're going to be outside, rain, wind, snow, and when fall comes around, when late fall comes around, everybody starts sending me emails. What's the winter going to be like? What's the winter going to be like? And all I tell them is, it's Iowa. What do you think is going to happen? It's going to get cold and it's going to snow. That's all you need to know.
But we're going to get to, because okay, wait a minute. I got to get to because I'm going to bring up the video. We're going to talk about the tornadoes that occurred back in December. And right now I'm watching the YouTube video of one of the tornadoes in Texas, not the second one. There was two of them at least of note.
Not the Garland, Texas tornado?
No, that's the second one. This was the first one.
Okay.
The first one that was actually caught on this stream. The second one was the one the Weather Channel had. Which I also is on YouTube, by the way. Okay, wait a minute. There. Okay, now I got it. Now I can screen share this back. But yeah, there was and in fact, it seems like the end of December came, and I know you watch Weather Brains.
Of course.
They had Carbon on, which was taped right before all this went down, and he's like, well, there's not been that many fatalities by tornadoes this year. That was the kiss of death. There was, at that time, I think there was only 10 fatalities up until that carbon episode, and how many
10
of
or
them
11
since? Like
up
until the end of the year, like 15 more.
The last number that I read, and this is going to be a while because I've been working a lot these last few weeks. Believe it or not, the last number I heard from the storm system over Christmas was 11.
Yeah.
From the series of storms that happened from December 23rd to December 26th or 27th, there was 11 fatalities related to that, which effectively doubled our death toll nationwide for the year.
Yeah.
Did you see the tweet that Rick Smith put out at the end of the event?
Oh, I probably did, but I can't remember it offhand.
It said it started off so sad, and it mentioned that up until December 23rd, there had been X many, and just in that 4-day stretch, there had been twice as many, or something to that effect.
Yeah, more than twice as more than that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a gut check, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
It was a somber moment for me, I guess you could say.
And the thing that really made it worse was it was right around Christmas. Wasn't it? It seemed like there was. It didn't matter what it was, because, for example, for those that are watching, what I'm showing on my screen, this was the tornado this was what it was, the Ovilla tornado. This was the one south of Dallas. This was the same storm system that went on to produce the Garland Rowlett tornado. That one killed people. This one I don't think did, that I know of. There may have been a death in this one, but I don't remember. But
I don't think there was, not with that first one.
The first one, which was the southernmost one. The northernmost one, oh yeah. But this one, because I was watching, this is from KXAS in Dallas. Oops. And with Rick Mitchell and who was pretty much on the thing, because I mean, there's Rick Mitchell.
What a guy. I like watching him.
Which is why, because I was actually watching this stream. I wasn't watching at the time of this. I started watching it after somebody then made a mention of this. This was Nathan Moore's video. Somebody had posted a link to it about there's a tornado on his stream. So I decided to watch it. I didn't watch it up at this point, but you can pretty much see. There it is. It's right there. And I can just, and there's where it touches down, at least the first part right there. But from about the point I started watching it was about, now this was at, let's say, so right here. That 4 minutes later, you go from one small little tiny tornado to, if it's going to go, now we have a big tornado in 4 minutes.
Yep.
And I started watching this the entire time, at least up until, and I thought, oh my goodness, that's a big tornado. I must have counted at least, I only watched this stream for like 2 minutes and caught at least 20 or 25 power flashes.
Yep.
And then I went to Channel 5's stream after that.
You must have caught right when it was going into the most populated part of Dallas County.
Yeah.
That's when you probably caught it right as it was going into those suburbs.
Because, I mean, you look at this. I mean, given the fact this chaser was in probably the best position, the tornado wasn't coming at him. It was moving kind of in an angle toward him.
More left to right than
yeah, he's looking
anything.
west and it's moving northeast. So, but yeah, this was dangerous.
I remember seeing a YouTube clip. I can't remember who it was from to save my life, but I remember seeing that tornado grow like you had mentioned. And
Wow, this is the best
it,
silhouette.
it reminded me of another tornado from back in 1997, the Gerald, Texas
Barrel, you know.
tornado, the one that moved northeast to southwest. When that storm touched down,
It was
um,
tiny.
it was like a 50-meter wide funnel at
Yeah.
the ground, and within a matter of 3 minutes, it was, I want to say it was 3/4 of a mile wide. So that eerily reminded me of that, and that just goes to show you just how quickly those things can organize and go from maybe a nuisance, spend an afternoon picking up your lawn furniture, to holy crap, I'm in some serious trouble here.
Yeah. And this was the big finale, because we had December 23rd, where we had long track tornadoes, which
Mm-hmm.
which would be this video here of the tornado crossing I-55 at Como, Mississippi.
Is that Jeff? I'm sorry, I can't see your
No,
screen
that's
share
not Jeff
that well.
Petrowski. Jeff Petrowski's
Yeah,
incident that occurred was from this day, the 26th.
yeah. I wasn't alluding to that, but I watched his video of the Como, Mississippi tornado, and I liked his video because he kept putting out information.
Yeah.
Like I want to say he was on Periscope for most of that day, and he was answering questions. Yeah, I mean, mid chase. I mean, there's a tornado right in front of him in his car. He's driving and he's answering questions.
Yeah.
Viewers' questions. Where should I go? What should I do? Where am I at in relation to this? That type of thing. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. The thing about the 23rd was there was that tornado, which is the Como, Mississippi tornado, which I'm not showing right now because I've unshared, but that tornado started pretty much in the Delta, Mississippi Delta region. It was on the ground, supposedly. I don't know if they've changed it or not. It was on the ground for over 2 hours, or maybe almost 3, and it went all the way up from almost the Mississippi River in northwest Mississippi, and it went all the way up into Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about 130 or 40 miles.
There was one break in that tornado's track.
Yeah.
I can't remember where exactly that break was, but it was right just north of the Mississippi Tennessee border, right in there in that little corner there.
Yeah, somewhere, because it went forever, and it was kind of sad because I was watching WMC out of Memphis that day, and which I get used to it, even though Dave Brown's no longer there, but there's people, they're experienced people there, because they had Spencer and Ron Childers there. So, but to have tornadoes just continuously staying on the ground and whatnot, and people were trying to get places, and it's sad. And
what I think, but there's a silver lining to that tornado. As strong as that tornado was, as long it was on the ground, it was good that there wasn't really a whole lot of injury or death associated with it, which means that the system worked. And that's what I like to see.
And that would have been a tornado for if we had to compare, and I know a lot of people don't like to compare. If that was you could compare it to some of the tornadoes from April 27th. The track was about the length of several of the long-tracked April 27th storms. And most of those longer-track April 27th storms killed over 30 people. And that one in particular killed 5, 6.
I want to say, yeah. I heard 6.
Yeah. And when and in some cases it's their time that if they take all the precautions, they may not make it. But I mean, for a tornado that's on the ground that long and is that strong and it only kills a few people, it would be nice to have nobody killed. But some cases, if it hits the wrong building, and stuff happens. I'm thinking all the fatalities were in homes. They were not in cars.
I'm not sure if they've done an assessment yet on the Como storm, but I do have a bit of a personal connection to the second Texas tornado.
Yeah,
Um,
go on.
a close friend of mine that I went to grade school and high school with. I won't mention his name because I haven't asked his permission to. But he's a school teacher in Garland, Texas, and him and I were chatting on Facebook Messenger that night, right after the tornado had dissipated, and I was asking him questions. Did you see it? This, that, blah, 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 and he mentioned that some of the neighborhoods that they were calling out on the news as having a lot of damage were some of the same neighborhoods where he taught at, and he was expressing concern, wanting to go down there, and I essentially talked him out of it because I told him there's emergency crews down there. They're trying to get to people. There's streets blocked, trees down, live power lines down. It's not the best idea right after the fact.
Yeah.
I told him wait until the light of day tomorrow morning to go down there when they've had a chance to do some work and clear some of that stuff out, so it's not as dangerous. He did that, thankfully. What wound up happening when he got there, he found out that one of his students lost their mother and 1-year-old brother in a car in that tornado, and that really hit home for me. I mean, the first thing I thought, because he sent me a picture of the family of the two people that lost their life, and I looked at it and I kind of stared at it for a second, and I just looked and I said, "Here we are. It's almost 2016." I'm thinking this to myself. It's almost 2016, and there are still people driving into tornadoes in metropolitan areas, and that part of Texas, I know a little bit about the geography of that part of Dallas County. That part, it's not really that affluent, but there's money there. Um, it's I would say it's very similar to um, a Bowman Woods in Cedar Rapids.
Yeah.
It's that type of community. Um, there's a lot of well-educated people there, and yet here we are talking about people losing their lives in cars and tornadoes. And it just, for some reason, I don't know those people at all. I've never met them, but for some reason, that image kind of stuck with me as to, this is what we're dealing with, and it's sad. We're this far along. We're talking wirelessly and broadcasting to the world right now, which is something that 10 years ago was pretty much impossible. And I'm doing it with a phone, and we're still dealing with this issue. Why is that? And that's what I'm kind of here to talk about and hopefully do something about in the coming years.
And the problem has been that it's getting better, but it's
not good enough.
Yeah, and when I went to NWA back in October, they had whole sessions on social media, which I didn't go to because there was another session that was more interesting to me.
Can't be at two places at once.
Yeah, and that was unfortunate because they had too many sessions that were going on at the same time, which when they're piling in a bunch of stuff, they can't have the meeting going on for like 10 days. People can't afford that much, especially when the hotel bill was expensive as all heck.
Yeah.
But anyway, my feeling has been the weather people are there to do their job, and they do it. They can't be the ones to have to come and hold your hand and take you to the basement or to your storm shelter or your closet or wherever, because they did their job. It's up to the people to do what they told them to do, to go to the basement and go do this stuff. And there's
Well, let me ask you this though: where does the job of the meteorologist end, and the job of the Joe Q public start? Where is that line in the
and I think
sand?
the problem is nobody knows where that line is.
And that's when we find out where that line is. That's where you're going to see some sort of breakthrough in weather. I don't know what you would call it, weather safety, weather action,
Yeah.
in terms of reacting and being proactive towards being safe in a weather emergency situation. Um, I don't. If I had to guess, I would say that line for the meteorologist stops when the warning is issued.
Mhm.
When the warning is issued, the time for preparation is over. Um, it's time to act. If you're in the warning, you need to do something, because not everybody is like you and me. You and me can look at a radar. I'm assuming you have radar scope.
I don't. I have Gibson Ridge.
Oh, I'm a little jealous. I have radar scope. Um, but you and I could look at any weather radar app and say that is a classic supercell. There's a debris ball. There's the hook. There's the notch. There's the hail core. That is not good. We look at that image, and I'm sure you're thinking right now in your head of a number 6 with a bunch of red and a bunch of yellow and stuff in a kidney bean shape. Not everybody knows that, and not everybody should know that.
You know.
It is our job, since we are the people that know that, we being, and I'm gonna drop a little James Spann on this, but we, as in the professional weather community, need to know that it's not people's jobs to know what a velocity delta is, what a velocity couplet is, what a hail core looks like, or a debris ball, or what an anvil looks like on a satellite image. Some people, they're not going to look at that and here's some more James Spann isms. You know, some people are going to look at a radar and they're going to think it's a bucket of spilled paint.
Yeah.
It's our job to interpret that in our brain, filter it, and give it to the Joe Q publics of the world in a way where they say, okay, I don't know what that looks like, but that person is telling me that that is dangerous and that's moving in my general direction. I need to do something, and I need to do something now, as opposed to 5 minutes from now.
And then the problem is you have some people, we won't mention who, that want to start spouting off as to where they need to be, where they need to be going if there's a certain example, and you know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
Oh
I
my
do.
gosh, you will die if you stay at your house or whatever. I'm thinking that's not helpful. The weather people, there are too many weather people. I wouldn't say too many. There's some. You pretty much know who they are, and everybody watching this probably knows who these people are. That want to start stirring the pot of panic. They want to say, "Oh, he's saying we have to go to wherever," but it's noted that they're repeating the same stuff they do for every time there's a tornado somewhere. I'm thinking they have to be repetitive because of the fact that they have to get it through your head, because some people you can't help them because they're not going to care. These are the people, and this is going to bring back another point of people complaining. And Spann was the one that got the complaints. Christmas Day, tornadoes. And these weren't these weren't tornadoes like, oh, it's the little tiny little spin up tornado.
The
Oh,
QLCS tornado.
yeah, and it's and which Span hates. Everybody hates them because here in Iowa, it seems like about the last 3 years have been almost all QLCSs of tornadoes. We've had very few of these supercellular tornadoes. We've had some. We've not. I could even say the ones we had back on December 23rd. Those were not supercells. Those were QLCS storms, which, given the fact 2 days before Christmas, we had tornadoes. So yeah, we were having like weird weather before Christmas because I don't think anybody was singing. They were thinking, "I'm dreaming of a white Christmas." They're not dreaming of having tornadoes before Christmas. It's like here comes a tornado. It's like, I don't think so. And you wouldn't have seen it because I don't think anybody, from what I saw when they were talking about the tornado damage on the north side of Hiawatha, which was one of them. All I heard from them was, "Oh, it started getting windy and it started getting kind of dangerous." So they went to the basement. There was no warning. So they could actually say it came without warning because there was no warning on it. Not even a severe thunderstorm warning. But, I mean, there was a tornado watch close, but it was in the county to their south. But I'm thinking I could see that rotation clear as day. The one.
But you mentioned the tornado watch. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you said that there was a tornado watch, a county to the south. It was for Johnson County, Iowa, which for those watching or listening is where Iowa City is. That's where the University of Iowa sits.
Unless you're
county to the south. Yeah.
Unless you're Al Roker.
Of course. But that's one county to the south. Now, if my memory serves me, in the discussion part of a watch that gets aired out to the public, it says that a tornado watch means conditions are favorable for tornadoes and severe thunderstorms in and close to the watch area.
Yeah.
Persons in these areas need to be on the lookout for threatening weather conditions and listen for later statements and possible warnings.
Yeah.
That means that if you are in or close to, conditions are okay. Meaning, at least to me, you need to be okay, or you need to pay attention. You
especially in the
counties
that are touching the watch area, that aren't in it but are touching it. That's why I wasn't in it in Jones County where I live, but I was watching, and that storm in particular, that's the storm that had the tornado, went to my west because the storms were moving northeast, and that storm had a lot of lightning with it. And
I live in Marion, and that I'm pretty sure I saw the south side of the updraft that caused that tornado. I think I did. There was a lot of rain and a lot of stuff, and I have a lot of trees in my neighborhood, so I couldn't see that well, and I wasn't going to venture out driving because I just didn't want to. I didn't feel the need to. But I'm pretty sure I saw that updraft that caused that tornado, and it looked fairly well structured. Whether or not they could see that on radar or not, since the closest radar to us is 75 miles away, I doubt they could. But at the low levels, it looked fairly well organized.
I know when the radar did show rotation, but unfortunately the beam was 6,000-7,000 feet in the air. I mean, if they say, "Oh, that could be a tornado," we would have twice as many tornado warnings as we do now.
Yeah, the FAR would be off the charts.
Yeah.
It'd be 70, 80, 90%, and that would just do nothing but hurt.
We'd have more fatalities in the long run. We'd have April 27th every year because people are like, "Well, that's not for me."
Yep.
And I mean, I fear what's really bad is that Iowa's had pretty much, you talk to storm chasers, they're like, Iowa, nothing happens there. Because they pretty much say Iowa is like the blacklisted for tornado chasing.
Only I would drop one town name on them, Parkersburg.
Which most of the big time chasers that day didn't come here that day. They went to Kansas. And and they missed out on an EF5 tornado.
Yep.
And in Kansas, there was only like little tiddlywink tornadoes.
Yep.
And then those that even missed that, or maybe if they also missed an EF3 outside the Twin Cities. That was the Hugo tornado.
You're right.
I should know that. My aunt and uncle's house was hit, not by a tornado, it was hit by baseball-sized hail.
Yeah.
Because
I remember that now.
Because Hugo, for those that don't know where Hugo is, it's on I-35E north of St. Paul.
Mm-hmm.
The town directly to the west of that is Lino Lakes. That's where my aunt and uncle lived at the time. My uncle has since passed away. And my
I'm sorry to hear that.
Away, but their house got pretty much nailed by a baseball-sized hail.
Mm-hmm.
The tornado was about, I think, 3 or 4 miles to their east and was away from them. So, but I do remember that only for the fact that my uncle died 2 months later, and I went up there for the funeral, and there was still the hail damage on the side of their house. Their windows were all fixed because they lost a bunch of windows.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sucking on a peppermint right now. But there was these big holes all over the place on the side of their house. It was just really kind of eerie.
Mm-hmm. That's weird seeing that, especially 2 months afterwards. That would be kind of spooky for me.
Yeah. It was a little odd.
But that whole day was odd, to me anyways. I don't have a lot of recollection of the meteorology of the Parkersburg day. I was actually doing some military stuff that entire week. That's where my memories kind of centered on, is military stuff. We were getting ready for our annual training in Wisconsin coming up a couple months down the road, and we had a lot of stuff to get done, and I volunteered to go down to the Quad Cities and help out with a lot of that. Where my memory of the tornado comes in is I left my National Guard armory at like, I want to say 2:00, and I remember leaving the actual building that my armory sits in and going outside and thinking, man, it is humid. It feels like July out here.
Yeah, it was hot that day.
Yeah, it just felt like July, where it just, you can't even hardly breathe. You take a butter knife out and cut the air,
Yeah.
And I'm driving back, and I see some agitated Q go up, and I'm like, oh, there could be some storms. And I hadn't looked at a forecast or even listened to a TV meteorologist in 10 days leading up to that day, just because I was so busy with that and my civilian job and everything else that was going on at the time. And I just looked at the Q field that was in front of me and thought, you know what? Something could happen today. I didn't even know. I still to this day don't remember what risk level Eastern Iowa was under. I didn't look, and I didn't bother to look. But when I got home, I had to make a couple of stops on the way home, so it took a lot longer than usual. But when I got home, when I got to my in-laws' house in Marion, I turned on the TV, and Justin Roberts was on KGAN.
Yeah.
And he was talking about a wedge tornado, and it was all over from then on. I sat out multiple games of Polish golf. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Multiple games of Polish golf with my wife and my in-laws, just because I was so transfixed on the television that day.
I'm looking it up now.
Oh, the risk level from SPC?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But that we're not under some black hole here in Iowa. I mean, yeah, we get dry slotted a lot here, but I've always been, since I decided that I was going to pursue meteorology as a profession, I've kind of put myself under the assumption that at some point, and this isn't like some hyperbole hype thing, it's I kind of put it in my mind, at some point we are going to experience something like April 27th. And it's going to be bad, obviously. Seeing that many tornadoes in one day is just bad. Oh, I see you have it up now.
Yeah, here it is. This was it started the day as slight and they bumped it to moderate by later in the day. And I think your phone's going off.
Yeah, my Twitter just went off. Hate mail.
But look at the tornado prob. It was highest in Wisconsin, and it only dipped to 10% right about where Parkersburg was. And if you and if you remember the day, if you look at a radar from that Parkersburg storm to the southwest, there was nothing.
So it was tail end Charlie.
It was tail end Charlie of the northern batch. Now, eventually, a whole squall line blew up later in the night because there were storms way into the night. But this was the outlook that came out at 3 o'clock. So, and the tornado, the storm blew up at just after 4. The tornado touched down at about 4:30. So, I mean, you had damaging wind, you had large hail. But, I mean, when you think about it, and then I can go back because this is from.
So moderate sounds about right to me, anyways. A moderate risk for that kind of day, because it wasn't really a big outbreak day. Nothing.
No.
You know, I looked at some stuff. It didn't really seem like a big outbreak day. Not like a March 13th, 1990, or an April 27th, or an April 26th, 1991 type of day.
Yeah.
So I think that might have been the right call for that kind of a day. But that goes to show you that even on a less than high risk day, you still can get violent tornadoes. So the assumption, and I get this a lot because the thing that I concentrate on the most is warm season weather, severe weather, rain, wind, because my function in the veterans group that I'm in, we're obviously the most active in the warm season. And my main interest and focus is with severe weather and the forecasting of that. And everybody tells me, oh, it's just a slight risk day. It's no big deal. Nothing's going to happen. No, things can't happen. The risk level does not determine the intensity. It just determines your chance of maybe seeing something that day. Whether it's, a quarter 60 day or baseballs and EF5s, who knows?
I had to, while you were doing that, and let me screen share this again.
Excuse me.
For example, here, this was at 3:20. This was May 25th.
Okay.
At 3:20. So, what lovely weather this is. I mean, that's it, I think. Well, so if I change the time to 4:20 for an hour, let me make sure it's going to pop up. And look what happened. There was, and no, the tornadic cell is actually right here. There was a tornado warning up here, but I don't know why. This is the one right here.
That was that's the Parkersburg cell, correct?
Yeah, this one down here that I'm pointing at. And no, nothing.
Yep.
And I could bump this up another hour. There is stuff that tries to develop that I remember now. 5:20, the tornado is north of Waterloo at the time. So it's like right here. But look, outside of this little cell, nothing else developed at all. It just went along the northern edge of this watch, and that storm was moving directly east. It went all the way across Highway 20, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. It followed 20 into Illinois, didn't it?
Yep. The last tornado warning on it was in Joe Daviess County, Illinois, and now it's at 10 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can bring it up to a couple of hours later, so I'll get it back to say 8 o'clock, 8:20. And by then, I think the storm finally it started just then look what happened. The tornadic cell is over here. But look,
everything just laid over.
It backbuilt down, and then these storms were the ones that had come up from the southwest. So you had another back coming in. So you had storms going up everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what turned into a squall line and then flew down. And that squall line had tornado warnings on it all until midnight or even past then. So it was so annoying. But the only tornadoes that were actually on the ground was from this storm that's over here by Dubuque, and it went off into Illinois and I think it lost its rotation because it was it had storms all over the place by then. But
it lost all that really good inflow.
Yeah, well, it still had the inflow from the south, but unfortunately there was too many other storms competing. So it lost its what you would call supercell structure. It became more linear. You could pretty much see all these storms along Highway 20 were linear. Then there's this tail end Charlie, which was right by Parkersburg. Then you had another one, and then you had these tiny little cells west of Des Moines, and then you had this MCS coming in from the southwest. So, I mean,
and maybe I'm way off on this, but wasn't this a warm front setup day?
I can't remember. Warm front, more like hot front. I'm trying. Well, let me. I probably talk
because that looks like a warm front day to me.
Because a lot of our tornadic cells up here, our tornado days here, are from warm fronts. There's too many people that I think, and this goes back to what the public knows and what they don't know, is they think cold fronts, and they think we get all our tornadoes from cold fronts.
Mm-hmm.
No, most of our tornadic days, especially the nasty ones, are on warm fronts. They're not on cold fronts.
Speaking of warm front days, does St. Patrick's Day weekend 2006 mean anything to you?
Are you talking?
I'm sorry?
Are you talking 2000? Are you talking about all those tornadoes?
Yes, and one supercell.
That wasn't on St. Patrick's Day. That was in April.
That was St. Patrick's Day weekend, though. I want to say it was.
Are you talking about the Iowa City tornado?
No, this was the six state supercell. Does that ring a bell?
Oh, that one. Okay, I thought you were talking about here. I'm thinking, no. Okay, yeah, that's the one that went and started in Missouri and ended up in Michigan or something.
It started in extreme northeast Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's it.
I chased this storm. In fact, it was mine and my wife's third date, and I almost killed her.
Yeah,
this is why I will never ever night chase ever again. I swore to her I'd never do it, and I'm sticking to it. And here's why. After a very, very long night of drinking the night before. I get up in the morning. I've always been a light sleeper and early riser. I got up about 6:37 in the morning, and I had my laptop with me, and she had Wi-Fi. So I get up and I start looking at data. You know, what's the setup like, and I'm start seeing stuff. Oh, we could see some severe weather somewhere around here. Okay, cool. So I start digging a little deeper and stuff, looking at models, and all of a sudden this bright idea pops into my head. Hey, maybe we can go storm chasing. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like fun. So I go wake her up. Hey, honey, do you want to go storm chase today? And she looks at me like, it's 8:30 in the morning. What are you talking about, storm chasing? I mean, she's totally blowing me off. I'm like, come on, wake up. I'll make you some breakfast. Let's go storm chasing. And she goes, okay, fine. That sounds good. Can we stop at Starbucks and get some coffee first? Of course, because I'm a coffee addict. I go, of course, we can do that, and then we'll hit the road. So she hurries up, gets ready. I make some breakfast, and we hit the road. I want to say 9:30, 10 o'clock. My first target that I picked out was Quincy, Illinois, because there was this one storm that was riding a warm front, which is the point of the story, was that this was a warm front day.
Yeah.
There was one storm that I could see the warm front. I could see it pushing northeast, the warm air advection pushing it northeast. And I just saw it. For some reason, something said that storm's going to last. I don't know why, because I was a big time spring chicken. I'm still a spring chicken now, but I was really a spring chicken then. But something in my head just said, you're going to get on that storm. And I thought I was going to go to Quincy. So we got to Quincy. I looked at some data. We stopped at a hotel and pirated their free Wi-Fi. And
we won't say which one.
No, I won't say which one. Especially since Bill Murray might be watching or will watch at some point, and I know he's a hotel owner. So I'll just leave it at that. But after looking at some more data, we thought, okay, it's probably going to go a little bit more southeast. So we go to our second target, which is Springfield, Illinois. And it's later on in the day. It's looking like it might be dark by the time we get on it. And I asked her, do you want to keep going? There's a little bit less chance of us seeing a tornado, but we still probably could if it hits a populated area. And we see power flashes and whatnot. And she's, okay, let's go. So we keep going. We get into the town of Jacksonville, Illinois, which is just to the west of Springfield. And that's when we actually get underneath the storm itself. And we start seeing just lightning like crazy, raining like crazy. And we get into Springfield and it just stops on a dime. The rain just shuts off. Like you just turned off the nozzle on the hose. And I start looking around and the wind's completely still, which was really weird for me. And there's nobody out. There's nobody really around. And we go into a gas station, and that's when the baseball-sized hail starts falling. And I'm glad we stopped at that gas station, because had we kept going like I wanted to, we'd have drove into two sister tornadoes that were going through the city at the time. And they were located about 2 miles south of where we were when we decided to stop.
Yeah.
So that's when I almost killed my then future wife storm chasing. But that was a warm front. It rode the warm front the entire way from northeast Oklahoma all the way up to, I want to say, just west of Detroit's when
it lost its structure.
Yeah, when it lost its structure and dissipated.
Yeah. I don't think it really dissipated. I think it just merged into a mass of heavy rain.
Yeah. And
if that storm was moved, that storm started at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and it went until 1 or 2 o'clock the next morning or something like that.
8:30 in the morning is the number that sticks out in my head, because I started really looking at that storm at about 8:45 or 8:50, and it was already super cellular.
And you were at home
in the Quad Cities.
Yeah, the Quad Cities, and you're thinking, okay, let's look at this storm
in Oklahoma.
You get to that same storm in Illinois, and then I assume after you got the baseball-sized tail, you probably drove back home.
Yeah, we drove all the way back to the Quad Cities and the giant rain mass.
Still there.
Probably. We didn't get back home till what time was it? Till 1:15, 1:30 a.m.
It was probably still there, probably dissipating at the time, or beginning to weaken.
And we drove back in the worst rain I've ever seen for that amount of time, because from Springfield to the Quad Cities is about a 3.5 to 4 hour drive.
No.
It was raining buckets the entire time. I've never seen it rain that hard for that long. Yeah. It was strange, and lightning everywhere, which made it which made it an already weird day to begin with even more weird, because over that much distance there was still that much rain and that much lightning.
Yeah.
And we were 100 miles southwest of the storm
Yeah.
that was causing this to begin with.
Yeah. And that was, there's times like that. I could get on, because I used to chase, but I stopped mainly because it costs too much money.
Mm-hmm. I feel your pain.
Because it does. Because I had, everybody's heard this story before, and I'll say it again. So I think I did a couple episodes ago, but I'll say it again. There was this storm that this was when I was living in Cedar Rapids, and I had my Corsica at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh, there's a storm north of Cedar Rapids. I think I'll go to my parents' house because they live in Anamosa, where I now live. I don't live with my parents. I live on the other side of town. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, oh, I think I'll just go to my parents' house, because at least I wouldn't, they'd say, why are you on the road? I'm going to my parents' house. See? So I have an excuse. So it's like the storm is going to cross between me and where my parents live, so I'll just go there. So then I'm like, they issue a severe thunderstorm warning. Ooh, exciting. So I had my camcorder at the time, and I have not put this video onto YouTube because it's still in those ugly VHS compact tape things. I still need to do that, and I still need to do that. And I go and I see this wall cloud. I can tell it's a wall cloud. I'm thinking that's a wall cloud. It was
Mm-hmm.
it was going over Marion at the time.
Okay.
So I drive up Highway 13 from Highway 30, because I lived on the west side of Cedar Rapids,
Mm-hmm.
and I drove up to where the Marion Walmart is now.
Okay.
And
I
the
know right
wall
where you're
cloud is like this perfectly cylindrical wall cloud. So I'm thinking, okay.
Like a miniature updraft.
See the rotation. I'm listening to the radio, to WMT.
Mm-hmm.
And they are actually interrupting. They're getting phone calls, because this was like 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. So
Mm-hmm.
they're like getting phone calls. They're actually doing phone calls with people wondering what the heck's going on. They're saying there's this what looks like a UFO outside, because it was that crazy. And people are freaking, and you can hear people literally kind of getting a bit freaked out, thinking, what's that? And there was a severe thunderstorm warning. And they actually had the TV people interrupt, because Channel 2 was still doing WMT's thing at the time. So Channel 2
Mm-hmm.
interrupted onto WMT's radio signal to talk about the severe thunderstorm and getting reports of wall clouds and rotation. And then they went back to what they were having on, which ended up being a Price is Right $1 Million Spectacular, which was interesting because part of that ended up on WMT's airwaves for about and I'm thinking, okay, I don't think anybody wants to watch that or listen to it. Anyway, I drive back south on Highway 13, back toward 30, and I was just getting onto Highway 30 going east, and they issued a tornado warning. I'm like, well, duh, because there's like wall clouds. So then I get to, and Matt would know this, that I got to Palisades Kepler State Park.
Okay.
Outside of Mount Vernon. I pull off the road. The wall cloud is to my north, so slightly west.
You have a good view then.
Yeah. And I pull off the road, and then this is where it gets crazy or kind of weird. Here is this girl standing on the side of the road, and I pulled up and I didn't see her, and she walks over and says, "Are you a storm chaser?" I'm holding a camcorder and my weather radio. I'm like, no, I'm an idiot. I didn't. But and then I'm taping. I'm like showing this wall cloud on my video. I'm talking to her, and she's talking, and we're doing all this stuff. And the wall cloud comes overhead. There's these little wisps that try to come down from it, but it never really materializes. So we go in the ditch. There's all these people just parked along the side of the road. I saw a school bus drive by. I'm thinking, oh, good Lord, there were not kids in that cheese. Because there was a big hail core. Because there was I got into no rain. It's like, here's the wall cloud. The sun is off to my left because it was a tail end Charlie storm. There was nothing. From the wall cloud, west was blue sky. You look directly to the east, and it was black because that's where the hail core was. And
it was an LP supercell.
Yeah, it was an LP supercell because it didn't have that much. precipitation, at least where I was. But it went right overhead, and she's like, "Can I come with you?" Like, I'm not picking up girls on the side of the road. Because, and here's the backstory on her. She and her mother were going to Cedar Rapids. She saw the storm coming, and she wanted to see it. So her mother let her off on the side of the road, and her mother, continued into Cedar Rapids. And she left her daughter standing on the side of the road to watch a tornado. If you don't think that's nuts, that's crazy. So then it gets
I'm not so sure that's the decision I would have made.
Yeah.
To be very PC
this was
about
2002. So this was like, I don't know what was going on. So I tell her, I don't think that's a good idea because the fact that I don't want to end up being the one that kidnapped you or some such thing. Or whatever. So then she gives me her phone number. So I get a girl's phone number chasing storms. and everybody.
There's worse things I've seen happen. Have you seen Jeff Petrosky's live feed lately?
Yeah, we're going to get to that after this. But and I chased that storm. I continued chasing it. I drove all the way on Highway 30 to Mechanicsville and never got wet.
Wow.
Because the wall cloud, by that point, was directly, when I got to Mechanicsville, the wall cloud, I could still see the wall cloud. It was southwest of me about 5 miles. But I was not even in the rain shaft because the wall cloud was getting so elongated from the storm. It was still there, and you could easily see it. I got into a little bit of rain driving south of Mechanicsville. Got these gorgeous shots on video, which I have done stills of, which are not on this computer, my laptop, but they're on my desktop, of the wall cloud.
I have to see these pictures.
And you see what almost looks like a funnel trying to come out of it. And then I get down to the road where there's a T intersect. Well, it's not a T, it's an intersection. And you go, if you went to the right, you go west. That crosses the Cedar River and then goes down south to West Branch, and then you go east.
Okay. Yep.
So I get to that intersection. I'm like, well, it's getting dark because by this point the sun has set. It's still light, but it's like 8:15, 8:30. Because this was in late May.
Okay.
So I drive back to Tipton and then drive back home. And I got to Tipton. All the fire trucks are out. Everybody's outside. The storm's like way west of them. And I drive back, and there's lightning because it's a tail end Charlie storm. So I was driving north back on 38 back north of Tipton, and you could see lightning on the storms to the northeast. It was kind of hit and miss. I drive back home. I look at the radar and find out that storm, that tornadic cell, dissipated 15 minutes after I left it. It just died. I had never seen a storm go from having a real defined wall cloud to gone in 15 minutes. It got maybe just a little bit south of Tipton and died. It just completely disintegrated. I've never seen a storm do that.
LP supercells do that, though.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen video of LP supercells out on the Caprock in West Texas.
Yeah.
When they get some of those real classic LP supercells down there, they'll get initiated by the Caprock, forcing air upwards, but they'll pop up and they'll drop baseballs for 15 minutes and then go away.
Yeah.
Just as quick as they form, Of course, they're hardly ever tornado producers because there's so little moisture, and the LCLs are so astronomically high. Yeah. But they just drop a bunch of hail, they ruin a couple people's day, and then they die.
Yeah. The weird thing about this storm was it was well structured. I think it started as a classic and then became LP because the wall cloud kind of disengaged away from the storm, but it was still on it. It must have been because there was a boundary. You could see the boundary on it. I could go back and look at this on a radar. I'd have to bring it back up because I don't have it on here, but it was a boundary. So my guess likely was the wall cloud was being disengaged from the storm by a boundary, and it was just riding the boundary kind of from northeast to southwest. And then finally, when the sun had set and the daytime heating had ended, it just fizzled, getting away from its supply of moisture, the inflow was gone
Mm-hmm.
because it was getting too far away from its parent cell, and it just died out. Because it just seemed rather funny that before, when I first saw it, when I was really up close to it in Marion, it's like, here's the wall cloud, and the rain shield may have been about a mile or two to the east. And remember what I said when I got to Mechanicsville, the wall cloud is like maybe 4 or 5 miles to my southwest, and I'm still not getting rained on. Although I had noticed it had rained in Mechanicsville when I got
So
there.
it was a right mover.
It was moving northwest to southeast. It was moving southeast today.
Okay. Yeah.
Which means when you look at it, it was not what I would call the hook was on the northwest end. It was kind of on the west end, and the cell was kind of angling to the south. It's kind of messed up. It's like, take a supercell that if you look at a storm, I use this analogy with supercells because they're like supercell storms track from southwest to northeast. That might be true in the south, but in Iowa, we get a lot of northwest to southeast storms where you take the supercell and you flip it 45 degrees, or not in this case 90 degrees to the right. Where
it's a right mover.
Southwest corner, it's the west or west northwest corner. And the storm is angling more instead of the northeast to the southeast. See, and I did this one time, and there were people who were like, huh, that's interesting. Because it's true. There's too many people that think that supercell thunderstorms can only be northwest or southwest to northeast. That's untrue. And we have video proof on the Weather Network that I am a co-owner of. We have proof that we had a tornado on the ground on our stream from one of our chasers, and that was a northwest to southeast tornado, and it was on the ground. It was a supercell, and we had it on our stream.
Oh wow!
And
was that around here?
That was the Traer tornado 2 years ago.
Oh, okay, yeah, beautiful storm. I photographed that storm from Central City. Believe it or not, getting eaten to death by mosquitoes as I'm doing it.
Yeah, we had our chasers. Well, we won't mention that. We'll mention this, but you could look up the YouTube video. Just look up video. There are several chasers that were on that storm. There was one person, Donovan Gruner. This is what we were talking about. If you look at Donovan Gruner's video of that Traer tornado, and I'm sure you may have seen it or not.
I think I've seen some of it.
Okay.
I don't think I've seen all of that video.
He gets to this gravel road on the Traer tornado. And he's on this gravel road, and the road kind of makes a turn to the left or to the north. And you see in the video, there's a car at where the road turns. And the tornado goes maybe about 50 yards north of that. Guess whose video we got?
His.
The car at the corner. Got video real close. You could see. The video was so pristine. Thank God we had this. You could see the corn easily just getting ripped right out of the ground and flung into the air. It was a small tornado at the time. It never really got big, but it was an EF1. But
it was beautiful though. I mean,
yes, because it was sunlit by the sunset.
Yeah, it was backlit, and it had that classic kind of tornado look. It wasn't a wedge. It wasn't a stovepipe.
It was a rope tornado. It wasn't like a wedge or anything.
Yeah.
It was that for a brief time it was a stovepipe, but it was mainly a rope the entire time. And it was backlit. The sun was setting. It was a tail end Charlie storm for a while. Then other storms developed further southwest, which but that was almost after sunset. But that was the first time I'd ever seen a tornado that close to except for a certain case in Oklahoma's video, but where you could see stuff just getting ripped completely out of the ground and whatnot. That kind of gave me the creeps a little bit, but that was a northwest to southeast tornado, and there's so many people when they say when you talk about supercells that I almost have to like say when you have storms from northwest to southeast, those storms could be just as nasty. I mean, I could start naming off a bunch of tornadoes that were nasty, that were northwest to southeast ones. Yeah, we've had a lot of these southwest to northeast ones, but there are later in the summer, and that Carrier tornado was in July.
Yep.
Most of our summer tornadoes come from the northwest. They don't come from the southwest because by that time it's summertime.
The death ridge has established itself.
And you're just getting what I would consider, quote, Canadian fronts that just bring down air back to like the 70s. And it's not this big cold pool that's trying to come down in April or May or even March in some cases.
Yep.
Where the temperatures are dropping to like 30 and it's like 75.
Like March 13th, 1990.
Yeah. March 13th, 1990 was one of them. That day it was like in the 70s.
I wore shorts to school that day. First time I'd ever done that up until that time in March.
Yeah, I discussed that event several times because I had Skip Talbot on twice. I discussed that with him one time. But anyway, I remember this for the fact that the tornadoes by the Quad Cities. The thing about March 13th that I remember was what is known as the Worthington tornado.
Worthington, Iowa, correct?
Yes. That storm was also on March 13th, and that was an F4.
Okay.
Tornado. And that started in Lynn County. It started near south of Prairieburg.
Okay.
West of Monticello and went to Worthington.
Wow.
I had never seen a picture of that tornado until last year.
Really?
Somebody had posted pictures of it, and it was what I would consider a wedge tornado. And I thought that storm, because I lived in Anamosa then, because I grew up in Anamosa. That storm was like 8-9 miles north of town. And where I was, bright and sunny. Yep. It was sunny. And that was back in the days when they issued tornado warnings for whole counties. Yep. So we were under a tornado warning. I'm like, it's sunny outside.
You don't need to do anything.
But true.
Why are the sirens going off?
The only thing about it was you could look due north, and there was this cauliflower everywhere, clouds everywhere. So you knew something was there. And where I lived at the time, you couldn't see to the north at all.
Oh, okay.
So I wouldn't have been able to see it unless I took my bicycle and drove up to the north end of town. And I don't think my parents would have liked that. In fact, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when that tornado went past. But it was bright and sunny and a lovely day. But I mean, a lot of the first real bad outbreaks go back to April 13th of 2006. I think it was April 13th. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the Iowa City storm.
That was the Iowa City tornado. That was a day we had record highs. And I remember that specifically because it was like that was the first real hot and humid day of 2006 was that day. When it's like 85 degrees in early April, and we're not talking about 2012 when it was 90 degrees in March.
Right.
That's a different story. It was 85 that day, something like that. And I can remember, this is how bad I am about this because I can remember it like it was yesterday. I had to go to Walmart to buy groceries that day. So, and the Marion Walmart had been opened. And this is going off crazy about this stuff. So people are like,
what are they talking about?
Groceries. But long story short, the Marion Walmart had opened, but I refused to shop there. So I went to the Blair's Ferry Walmart in Cedar Rapids. Long story short. But anyway, I drove there. Now, before I left, I watched Denny Frary, who used to be on Channel 9. He was on the Cedar River front. It was on the riverfront talking about, ooh, it's a lovely day, blah, blah, blah. This was at the 5 o'clock, his live shot at 5 o'clock. And they showed the radar. There was this little speck, just a speck near Boone.
Okay.
A severe thunderstorm watch. So Denny was not going to be doing any more live shots after the 5 o'clock. He was going to go back to the station. So I saw that. I saw a speck. They'd issued a watch. I'm like, oh, that's nice. I got in my car. I think I still had the Corsica then. Maybe. Yes. No. Yes. I may. Whatever. I had a vehicle of some kind. I don't know if I had the Corsica or if the brake line had died yet. Anyway, I drove there. to Cedar Rapids. And I'm listening to the radio, blah, 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 radio. And I'm hearing on the way there that they're issuing severe thunderstorm warnings, because I turned on WHO, because I'm not going to get warnings for here or for out there on WMT. So I've turned to WHO, which is in Des Moines, for those that don't know. It's a 50,000 watt clear channel. So I'm driving there, they're issuing these severe thunderstorm warnings for whatever. I think it's Marshall County or whatever, and all of by Marshalltown. So
Marshall,
I'm driving to
Tama.
Yeah, well, we're getting to that later. Okay, so I drove to Walmart on Blair's Ferry, and I go and I shop real fast. I don't know why anybody would care about that, because this is a weather show and not let's watch the Jeff shopping show. And I usually
next on Shopping Brains.
Yeah, we're doing shopping. Who wants to know what I bought for groceries? I don't remember. That was 10 years ago. So anyway, I get out of the store, okay, out of Walmart on Blair's Ferry. I look to the west. It is pitch black. And I'm thinking, what the heck? Because the last time I had heard, the storms were like 60 miles to my west, or even further west than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, I better get home. So I get in the car and turn on WHO, and they're issuing a warning for Tama County. I'm thinking, it's that far away and it's pitch black here? That's serious. Or something else is developing further to the east.
Mm-hmm.
So I drive back home. I lived in Springville at the time.
Okay. So
it's long story short, because I didn't live up here. I lived in Springville. So I got home and I was getting all my groceries out, and its storm is close, because there's another storm closer than Tama County by this point. I've figured that out. And I get home and there's a bunch of people sitting outside. Don't know why, because it's a lovely day. So I go in there and into my apartment that I lived in Springville, and I put all my stuff away, and I turn on the TV. This was before I had my weather blog, thank God, or I would have really had fun with this. And they're showing the radar, because there's, I think, a tornado warning by this point. They issued a tornado warning in Tama County.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, there's like a storm like 5 miles away. I think there needs to be a warning here. Anyway, so I went outside to tell them that they should go inside, these elderly people.
Mm-hmm.
I went outside to warn them that there was bad weather coming, because they weren't aware of it. They were outside. I told them that. Just as I told them that, there's this big flash of lightning, must have been like real close, and immediate thunder. And they're like, okay, time to go inside. And I swear that was creepy as all heck. So I go inside, and then they issue a tornado warning for Lynn County, because the storm that's coming is rotating. And then they report there's a tornado on the ground in Marion.
Mm-hmm.
It was weak. It was on the north side of Marion by County Home Road for your benefit. It was weak. It didn't last very long. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm preparing. The sirens go off. I'm calling my sister. She lived in Ames at the time, telling her, because the storms are gone from Ames, and she's all mad because none of the storms are near her. I call my parents, telling them that they should be watching the weather, which they were to a certain extent. And so that storm, the northernmost storm, the one that has a funnel cloud by this point, I go outside. Knowing me, I'm weather geeky. It's like, tornado? Let's go outside so I can look for it.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that they had reported there was a tornado at Whittier, which is north of Springville, which was untrue, supposedly. We're not sure. So I look in that direction. I can kind of see to the north from there, and I see what looks like the funnel cloud on that storm. Okay.
Right.
Then I turn, because I'm looking north. Then I look due west and look straight up, and here's this wall cloud right in front, what looks to be a funnel or a type of wall cloud that's going to come right over me. And I'm looking at that, and I'm going, that looks way more developed than that one over there. And I go back into the apartment. It's not even raining yet, because this was on the front, almost looks like on the front side of the storm.
Okay.
Which it wasn't. It was kind of angling a little bit, so it was actually where it was supposed to be. It was where the hook was. There was more rain behind it, so it's one of those messed up type systems.
Okay, there's a lot more rain wrapping around the backside.
Yeah, that funnel cloud, the wall cloud that I saw that went right over my head, would go on and produce an EF1 tornado southwest of Anamosa, and it was on the ground, and it became a half-mile wide at one point, according to the storm report.
Mm-hmm.
And that wall cloud went right over my apartment in Springville. And the thing I remember about that day was we had a severe thunderstorm watch. They did not issue a tornado watch. Every single storm, it was like a big cluster of storms, but every single one of them had hooks. They were all rotating, but it was like in a big cluster. It was like five supercells kind of merged together, but they were all sort of separate, but not. And they had to keep going from one to one to one because every single one got tornado warned. And almost every single one had damage, either from wind or from a tornado.
It sounds like something a little bit more recent.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was from 2006.
Right. It sounds like 2011, but just without the absolute violence of that.
Yeah, because even the Iowa City tornado was only a high-end EF2.
Mm-hmm. Was it 2 or a 3?
No, it was a 2.
Oh, okay.
It was a high-end. If the St. Patrick's Church, Catholic Church that got hit, if it had fallen down, I think it would have been a 3. But it stayed up.
Yeah, the steeple stayed upright. I remember that now.
My guess would have been is if it had fallen, it would have been a 3.
Mm-hmm.
But only in that area. So.
Right. Okay.
But that's enough of that because nobody wants to hear me gab because there's been too many complaints of me past me gabbing. So, and we've been going an hour and a half already.
And we're just getting warmed up. Like James Spann says, sleep is for sissies.
Yeah, my neck hurts. That's all this stuff.
My back's starting to hurt. I'm sitting here in my basement right now, and I have I'm sitting in a chair I'm not really used to, and it's like, okay, how can I adjust without moving too much?
Well, I always keep my camera off mainly because my lighting in here is terrible, and my bandwidth is terrible, and there's a lot of times when I have to move the laptop around. So,
I gotcha.
I always sometimes mute and unmute because I have to move to get more comfortable. So
I gotcha. It makes sense.
But with the weather, we're like talking about nice weather because the weather now is not good because it's cold and shitty. Nobody wants this weather. Yeah. And I'm trying to think of something else. Yeah, people bitching because we were getting into this and we kind of went off. The Christmas Day thing with Span.
Mm-hmm.
We finally got back around to it. That was like, what, 30 minutes ago we were talking about
we don't like chasing rabbits, do we?
Yeah, people complaining about, sports is more important than their life. Evidently, in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a case, I think, anywhere.
It's more so down there just because there's so much of it.
Yeah, but this is basketball. If it was an Alabama football game,
it'd be over.
There'd be murder attempts or something.
Probably.
But I mean, the thing that, yes, it was the big game. It was Golden State and Cleveland. Oh, whoop-dee. For somebody in my case who really doesn't care about the NBA, because I didn't have it on, because as you would know, I'm pretty much sick of politics, and I don't want to hear 5,000 hours of ads. So I pretty much have not watched local news. I have not watched any TV as much as I have to, so I don't have to watch any ads that's going to piss me off no matter which party it is. I'm sick of them already. I'm glad. I'll be happy when February 2nd comes. That's the day I caucus, when I can start watching the news again.
Right.
Until about August when they'll start the ads again. But by then, at least there's like not 6,000 people running for office or whatever. Anywho. Mm-hmm. So enough about that. That's our politics portion of the broadcast. But people are complaining about a sporting event. And there was tornadoes on the ground. And it wasn't like a little tiddlywink EF0. It was an EF2. And an EF2, an EF0 could kill you if you were outside. And I doubt anybody was because it's December. It was Christmas Day, That tornado was on Christmas Day.
Well, just to play devil's advocate, it is Christmas Day in Alabama. They're
Yeah.
used to warm Christmases down there, so somebody could be in Alabama, but that's just me playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, the thing that I worry about is that people were more concerned about a basketball game than a tornado coming at them. I mean, given the fact, and I could get on 3340's owner, Sinclair.
Hashtag KCRG.
You know, Channel 9 is owned by Gray. But anyway.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, Channel 9's owned by Gray.
Who owns, then who does Sinclair own here locally then?
Channel 2.
That's it. Okay. I stand corrected.
Anywho, back when they bought 3340, they could have solved this problem, but they decided to screw it up. Because Sinclair has a bunch of stations down there. They have sub-channels. They have other channels. They got channels. This is what they could have done there, but they're not smart. Because in Wichita, the Wichita market, there's like, they cover like all of Kansas except the Northeast. And the far east. They cover everything. Pretty much. If it's not near Topeka, it's not near Kansas City, or it's not in the counties around Joplin or the northern end of the Tulsa market, Wichita covers it.
Okay.
So they cover everything from about the Flint Hills west.
Okay. Makes sense.
And they used to cover a few counties in southwest Nebraska, but I don't think they do anymore. So anyway, they have all these stations everywhere. So it's like a station in Wichita is not going to interrupt their programming for a tornado warning that's up by Goodland. Why would they? It's not going to affect those people, at least yet. So what they do there is they just interrupt on their signal in that area and warn those people and have just those people being warned on. Now bring back to Birmingham. There's a reason it's called 3340, and it's not because they decided to call themselves that.
There's two transmitters.
There used to be, because Sinclair was stupid. Because they gave up 33 and 40 and gave it to a shell company, which we can't really call it a shell company now because they don't have any say at what goes on those two stations anymore. But they put 3340 on a sub-channel of channel 68. That defeats the purpose of puts the problem in. Because ABC is only seen on that station, everybody in the Birmingham market gets interrupted. Whereas, if you had still had, before when Albritton still owned it, you could have, for people in West Alabama, you could have just interrupted on channel 33, and channel 40 viewers would have still had their game on. But nope, can't have that now. Given the fact that their ABC affiliate is still on, it's on 68.2. I think it's on 17.3. It's on, or 20.2. Really? It's on like 60,000 different subchannels. It's so messed up in that state. I think they are still on channel 40, on 40.2, because they're, which is in Anniston. But that's where I think the Birmingham, and they were the only station that has this thing, because all the other stations don't have this problem. 6, 13, and 42 in Birmingham. But that the thing occurred that there's tornadoes on the ground and people might be in serious trouble, and it's in Birmingham because the warning was in Jefferson County.
Right. Which is the county that Birmingham sits in.
Yes, where Birmingham was. And there's tornado on the ground. And it's confirmed by the weather service it's on the ground. And people are still saying, I don't care. I want to see my game. You have ruined it for me. I want to see my LeBron.
I remember seeing that.
The first thing, and I said this on Twitter, I said, there's this thing. It's called the internet. If you have that much space because there's so many people in Alabama that have money, evidently. They spend more money on their cell phones and food. But anyway, and that's not being facetious, but that's kind of true. You can get a thing. It's called Watch ESPN, where you could have watched the game on your iPad or smartphone or whatever, and you would have gotten to see your game. Because there's the mentality. All these people are like, there's young people our age and younger. They're like, TV, that's old. That's for old people. But these people were my age and our age and younger, complaining that they can't see their beloved game on TV. Really? TV? Are you serious? And you're the ones that are not watching the TV to begin with. You're watching your Netflix and your YouTube videos and all this other stuff. And you want to watch a game on TV?
Of course.
Are you serious? You can watch it on ESPN. On Watch ESPN on that app. I mean, it's not brain surgery to get it, especially a lot of cable companies have it.
Well,
Like
you can have all the, but even so, even if everybody had that app that didn't like their coverage interrupted that day, you can have every one of those having that app and using it, and somebody is still going to find something wrong with it just because.
Yeah,
that's the human condition. That's how people are. That's how we're wired. If there's something happening we don't like, we say something about it.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of the way things are. That's the way it is. That's not going to change.
Yeah.
And it sucks. I felt terrible for any TV meteorologist in the Southeast that day, just because they were going on. There was so much stuff on TV, regular programming type stuff, the games and everything else. And God forbid you interrupt something like The Amazing Race or Dancing with the Stars or anything else like that.
Bill Kings has done that numerous times with Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah. I don't watch those, but I can only imagine some real fanatic just going off the deep end with that. But either way, there's always somebody that's going to be unhappy with what you're doing. So where does that leave you?
And those are the same people that are going to be unhappy no matter what. You interrupted such and such. I'm unhappy because they'll say that about anything. They just rile themselves up.
Exactly.
And are those the same people that when there's actually serious weather and December 25th, the Christmas Day tornado that occurred in Birmingham, there was a few that day. I'm thinking there's too many people, and Span has mentioned this too many times, that everybody wants to say it's this April 27th. No. I mean, you can compare it all you want, but Span's not going to answer it anymore. So why are people still asking it? Because maybe they want to get themselves freaked out or panicked. I don't understand.
It's the hallmark severe weather event of our generation. That's why.
For them. For me, it still is, but I wasn't in Alabama. I was in Alabama after the event, but
neither was I. I was 7,000 miles away in Egypt. But when I saw the outlook when I saw the day 3 outlook for April 27th, I knew it was bad. Yeah. When I saw the models for what was it? What was the first one I looked at? I think it was 72 hours out.
Yeah.
To me, that I'm getting ready to give a talk for the Cedar Rapids JCs, and I'm going to show some of the models for that day. And the only thing I'm going to say about it, because there's not a lot of weather weenies in that group, is that's what the picture of violence looks like to a meteorologist. And that's what I saw. I saw the picture of violence. But I had no personal connection. I have a lot of family members that live down there, that live in James Span's market. I have a lot of my family that live in Northwest Alabama, in Marion County. But I have that connection, but it's still the hallmark event for what we've seen, because we didn't live through April 3rd and 4th, 1974, or we didn't live through March 13th, 1932. We didn't live through that. Those were the hallmark severe weather events for those two generations. April 27th, 2011 was ours. It was our generation. It was our generation's red letter day. This is the basis for which everything else to follow until the next event is compared to. So from April 28, 2011 till whenever the next ginormous tornado event is, everything's going to be compared to that. That's just human nature.
In the areas that were affected, because there was a lot.
I'm seeing it nationwide.
There was a lot of people that really freaked out on April 28th, 2014. That was the Tupelo Day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was probably what I would consider between April 27th, 2011 and now. April 28th, 2014 was probably the biggest event in that time frame.
I would agree with you.
Because
it had the most potential.
I'm eating peanuts. But that event on April 28th, 2014, which I watched from start to finish on Span's TV station, it's on YouTube now. It started later in the day. It lasted longer, but it wasn't as violent, except for the tornadoes seemingly just deciding to drop whenever they felt like it. Unlike you didn't have what I would call, quote, long track tornadoes. Tupelo was probably the longest track tornado in the entire thing.
Yeah.
All the rest were like 5, 6, 7, 8 miles. But when they touched down, at least several of them were violent, but they didn't last. The funny thing I remember, and it's on YouTube, where Span says, this was at like 9 o'clock at night during the event. He's like, we may get 5 or 6 tornadoes out of this. How many tornadoes did Alabama have from that event on April 28th, 2014? 32. Many of which had occurred after Span said that.
Right.
So, because there was you had supercells, then there was the squall line. The Weather Service, Span mentioned this on the air. Oh, we're going to have a squall line. We might have a few spin-up tornadoes. And the Weather Service has said that. And I'm thinking, okay, what happened? About 30 minutes after that had happened, the squall line broke apart into supercells again, and every single supercell started rotating again, and every single one had tornadoes. So then it starts a whole rash of tornadoes everywhere at 10 o'clock p.m. There's a tornado on the ground in northeastern, this is in Alabama for those that don't know. At 10 o'clock p.m., we have a tornado on the ground in northeastern Coleman County. We have a tornado on the ground in northern Jefferson County. We have a tornado on the ground, or about to be on the ground, south of Tuscaloosa. That's 3. So all of a sudden now, from that point on, there's tornadoes everywhere. Then you had the storm, which was the Tuscaloosa tornado. We're not talking about Tuscaloosa 2011. This is Tuscaloosa 2014. You got to get your Tuscaloosa tornadoes proper. There's so many of them. That town, I think, gets hit more than Moore, Oklahoma.
I think it's a close second. It seems like it anyways.
Well, just in the time that Span has been at 3340, which was 96. Tuscaloosa has been hit in 97, 2000, 2005, 2011, twice, 2014. That's 6. How many times has Moore been hit? 99, 03,
08.
08.
There was one in
2013 twice.
2010.
That's 6.
Was there one in 2010?
I don't remember the 2010 one. I do remember that the 2 in 2013. One was the May 20th, and one was the same as El Reno.
Yeah.
El Reno Day. That was a weak one. And then the one this past year was the day that was not tornado warned.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was a weak one. Now, when I was in NWA in October with Henry, we went to Moore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we drove down there because we had nothing to do. Because we were going to Cheesecake Factory, and that was on the north end of Oklahoma City, so we decided to leave and drive down there and then drive back. So we went to Plaza Towers Elementary School.
Oh, okay.
Which has been rebuilt.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a plaque there, which Henry took a picture of. The weird thing about it was really eerily creepy there, around where Plaza Towers is, because they rebuilt it in the same place.
Okay.
All the houses are new, and they were still building them. And you could see the streets in that area were not new. There were still portions of that street, it looked like that it was really bumpy. So I'm thinking this may have been a part where the tornado ripped the cement off, and they never fixed it. And that was kind of a bit eerie, because I looked at it on Google Maps after I came back home.
Right.
Because they have it before and after. And it was a nice area of lots of trees, and today, nothing. There's a few trees, but not any. And it's really eerily creepy. And we did that. Now, when we were coming back, where did we spend the night? Because I'm not driving back from Oklahoma City clear back to Iowa in one day. So we stopped in Joplin.
How fitting.
No, because I did that perfectly why we stopped there. But we didn't go driving around Joplin when we got back. We did that driving to Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
And long story short, and I'm going to eat some peanuts now. This goes back to me going to a NASCAR race, back to the beginning of this entire video. My father and I went to Texas. Guess where our hotel was?
Gerald?
No, Joplin.
Oh, really?
Guess what year it was? 2011.
Really?
And the race we went to was the spring race in April. Joplin got hit by the EF5 5 weeks after we were there.
Wow.
The hotel we were staying at didn't get hit.
Right.
And the hotel that Henry and I stayed at was right next door to the hotel that my father and I stayed at years before, so it didn't get hit. But we drove when we got there, because we had a little time, so we stopped and drove around. We drove pretty much to where the tornado was. You could see it. You could see where the tornado was. All you had to do is look for the area that has no trees.
Right.
Or just a few trees, small ones that they planted. You could see it.
It's always easy. It's always easy to pick out the violent tornado tracks.
Well, I watched the video that's from this guy in, I think, Australia or New Zealand. He was in the thing with Roger Hill.
Oh, Free News AU. I forget his name.
No, not
That's his Twitter handle, anyway.
But he took a video from the chase thing. He's driving down range line in a chase vehicle, and they're driving south. And the video starts with them passing the Payless shoe source. That building would be destroyed. That was where the northern edge of the tornado was at the Payless.
Okay.
And I'm looking at every single building, because I had driven down with my father, because we drove around Joplin when I was there a couple weeks before this event.
Okay.
Just driving around looking at Joplin going, ooh, because it was a town I'd never been to. How was I supposed to know everything I was seeing was going to be destroyed in 5 weeks by a tornado? Anyway. And it's eerie because I'm like looking at every building and I'm like, destroyed, 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 destroyed. I'm pointing out. And then they mentioned in this video, because they're now looking off to the west down these long roads that go west to east. And they can see the power flashes, but they can't see the tornado because it's so big. At least 2, maybe 3 miles to their west. And that one person says, maybe we should go to the Home Depot. I don't think so, because that place got nailed and there were fatalities there.
But it's better than them being in a car.
Yeah.
Even a Home Depot is better than being in a car in any tornado, period. I don't care if it's, the mythical F6. You're going to stand a better chance of surviving inside of a Home Depot bathroom than you are in your Ford Ranger.
They drove. They eventually, because the power went out, so the stoplights stopped working. There's all these cars on the road. I'm thinking, what are these people doing? This goes back to the situation of how are people getting these warnings? Because these people are driving around and they're not all storm chasers.
Well, it's not.
They get out of the path of the tornado within
a minute. it may not be so much them getting the warning, it's them, it's
what to do.
the Joe Q public doing something about it.
And the
Because
worst,
everybody's got a phone.
yeah,
They
or
all get
listening
the
to the
government.
radio.
They all got the government alerts.
And there's too many radio stations now that are programmed in faraway places, Clear Channel, or used to be Clear Channel, iHeart Media, where everything's programmed in San Antonio.
There's only one program manager for the entire company.
They group them, but it's almost like that. But
pretty much.
You have this problem, especially in smaller towns like Joplin. We're not talking like 500 people. There's 50, 60,000 people that live in Joplin.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a Sunday, which couldn't have been the worst situation. It was eerily similar. It was the Sunday of Memorial Day weekend. No, it's the Sunday before Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the Sunday before.
The Memorial Day was weekend after. So it made it eerie. It was a Sunday in May. Parkersburg was on a Sunday in May. Both were EF5s.
Speaking of weird connections with tornadoes, answer me this. What is it with tornadoes in towns that end in "berg"? Greensburg, Kansas. Parkersburg, Iowa. Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Hackleburg, Alabama.
Hackleburg, Alabama. You get where I'm going with this. Those are just the four, and I could remember in 5 seconds. There's a bunch more. I mean,
yeah,
that's not really a thing. I'm not even trying to start a thing, but I thought about that one day when I was watching some of James Spann's coverage from April 27th when he was calling out all these towns, and I just thought, Hackleburg, Parkersburg, Greensburg. Wait a minute. What's up with this?
Well, the March 13th, 1990 tornado was near Prairieburg.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't hit the town. Tim Heller would have been more concerned then.
What's that?
Tim Heller would have been more concerned if that tornado had hit Prairieburg, but he wasn't in our market at the time yet.
Oh, I see.
You're like, who's he?
I remember him a little bit. I've only been in Cedar Rapids for about 8 years, but I used to come back and forth. I remember seeing a few of his broadcasts. Is what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, he was at Channel. He was at Channel 2 for about 3 or 4 years. His parents live in Prairieburg, and they still do.
Oh, cool.
He was a former Polygon guest.
Nice.
Here's the story about him, and I'm sure people are going to complain about that because this was on his show, which was episode I don't remember. But anyway, because when he was on, he wanted to start talking about detasseling corn. I don't know why. Anywho.
Because it's Iowa?
Yeah.
That's what we do?
He wanted to stay in this market because this was his home.
Mm-hmm.
And here comes consultant people, or these talent search people they come to smaller towns to try to take people to the big towns.
Mm-hmm.
One of those happened to be staying in Cedar Rapids, and they wanted to talk to him about coming to their station. And eventually, he decided to agree to go there. So he did. He went to KDFW in Dallas. Well, that talent guy must have done something else because not only did they take Channel 2's chief meteorologist, they took their sports director.
Really?
Both the sports director and the chief meteorologist left Channel 2 and went to Channel 4 in Dallas. The sports director is still there. And that's Mike Ducey. And he's still at Channel 4. Tim Heller, on the other hand, has since left Dallas, and now he's in Houston.
Wow.
At an ABC O&O.
So there is a pretty good connection with Midwestern meteorologists going to big cities.
Well,
because you have him, you have just from my memory, you have Cassie Hyder, who went from WQAD to the hotbed of any severe weather place in the world in Oklahoma City. Who was the other one I was thinking of? I just thought of him just a minute ago. Help me out.
People.
There was one more.
God, I can't. Here or in the Quad Cities?
In the Quad Cities.
Oh God.
Greg Dutro went from here to Denver.
Yeah. I remember he went to the Fox affiliate in Denver.
Yep.
I'm eating peanuts. Okay, I could go on to this. We're chatting now, it seems like. But in this market alone, because our weather people, I don't think in this market, they stay until they're told to leave.
Pretty much.
Or Channel 2, they leave because they ain't going to get more money.
Unless you're Terry Swales.
Yeah, I think Terry's just going to stay here. I think
he doesn't want to go anywhere else, and people
and he's back
love
home
him too much.
Because it's like Quad Cities, Cedar Rapids, close. And he's from Iowa City to begin with, so.
Yep. But Terry Swales is my hero, so that makes me completely happy.
Yeah, he told me no to be on the show. So,
really?
Yeah. He's too busy at night to do stuff, and I can understand. Now with his wife having cancer.
That makes a lot of sense. Ask him again.
Now that she's done with it. Until after Carolyn gets off of cancer treatment.
Oh, okay. She's not completely done yet.
That his wife got diagnosed not long after my father got diagnosed with cancer. So, and right now my father is on the verge. He's already done his radiation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's done. He's going to have his MRI and all this. I'm sure everybody's going to want to talk about this part. The infamous Polygon medical update over Jeff's father's condition. That he's having his tests done this week, and then we're going to find out when they're going to remove the infamous tumor.
Good. At least progress is being made.
Which is sooner rather than later, because it should have been done 6 months ago. Anyway, so there's that. So I've known about Terry forever because he's bounced around at every station of the Quad Cities because they can't keep him because the stations are too stupid.
Yep. James Spann of the Midwest, if you ask me.
Yeah, the sad thing that I kind of feel bad about is at Sinclair.
I don't think that matters. I think Terry brings with him such weight in terms of people loving him, but his knowledge of meteorology and what James says, the 3 magic things, understanding the people, understanding the culture, and understanding the geography. He carries enough weight with those 3 things. No matter who he works for, they're going to give him the room to be who he wants to be.
You'd hope.
I haven't seen him any different from when I first started watching him in 1990 from today.
On Channel 6.
Exactly.
Yeah. But when I was talking about the weather people in this market, when I first started this program, it was going to get people that either worked in the state, in the area, Iowa, or maybe even like Quad Cities, which could be in Illinois too, or people that used to work here. Well, then when I looked at that, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, that could be crazy. So then the first person I had on with outside the first 2 episodes, which was a mess, with Spam. Spam never worked here.
Right.
I was like, but then I started getting people and whatnot. But then we had Tim Heller, who's now in Houston. He used to work here. He used to work at the TV station in Dubuque.
Really?
How long ago that's been?
That's been a couple of years.
Yeah, because Dubuque hasn't had a TV station of their own. You can't count it as the Christian Television Network station now because it is that station, but it's not that. It used to be the semi-satellite of the Fox affiliate. Then before that, it was an ABC affiliate, which made Channel 9 mad. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, there's that.
So they bought it.
No, the Fox affiliate here bought that station, and then they decided to just give it to the Christian television people, and they now own it.
Oh, that's right.
Anyway,
you are right. Once again, I stand corrected.
Ooh, excuse me.
Those peanuts must be awfully tasty.
No, I'm drinking pop now.
Oh.
Well, I'm eating honey roasted peanuts. Anyway, back to what I was discussing. Okay. I know that Mike LaPointe used to work at Channel 9. He's now in Omaha via Minneapolis, Oklahoma City, Milwaukee, and Pittsburgh.
Wow.
Side note, Mike LaPointe left this market. His next job after that was Oklahoma City at KOCO.
Wow.
Where he was pretty much the severe weather guru for Rick Mitchell, who is now at Channel 5 in Dallas.
Right.
Side note, Rick Mitchell used to work at WOI in Des Moines.
Really?
Yes. He didn't respond to me. Anyway, so we have that. I know several weather people have left. I know Josh Linker used to work at Channel 2 back in the late 90s. He's now in Tampa Bay. Gosh, who else? There's a bunch of weather people, I like how a lot of the weather people that they use fake names, and I already know there's several in this market that use fake names. But anyway.
Like Joe Winters?
Yeah, that's not his real name. I think I made him mad because I know his real name. So we can't say that on air because then he might sue us or sue me. Well, he might sue you. He might sue everybody.
He might sue me because I used to work for his parent company.
Back at the Gazette.
Exactly.
His old company, since the Gazette doesn't own Channel 9 anymore. So
exactly. I used to work in the printing press.
Mm-hmm.
So he might come after me just because. Who knows? I don't want that on my back. Anyways, because I can't afford.
You have experience in the military, so.
Well, there's that, but yeah, I'm not going to go there.
Anyway, so but I know there's several people. A lot of the people from Channel 9 have just left the business altogether. They just leave the business and go do other stuff. So I don't know what the
yeah. Who was their evening anchor? Just left so she could run for office.
Oh, Ashley.
Yeah.
That was their weekday morning person.
No, it wasn't Ashley Hinson. It was the other girl.
No, but Ashley's the one that's running for office.
Oh, okay.
For those that don't know, we're not going to mention that because that doesn't bother me because she's not running in my district anyway.
And she's a nice enough girl. I've met her a couple times. She's nice.
I don't like her.
Really?
Yeah, because now and we're going to get into politics again. The problem is now that she has decided what she is. I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat. She's a Republican, by the way. That now, if she loses, which I don't think she's going to, she can never get a job in journalism again because she's now biased. And the minute you're biased, you're not going to be in the field of print anymore unless you're on Fox News.
No fallback plan.
Or if you
unless her plan is to make it somehow on Fox News.
But anyway, enough of that because this is weather. But I know for a brief time, and this would be a bit weird, Mark Prater, who's in Birmingham.
Yeah.
He worked in Davenport for 2 years.
I remember that.
At Fox 18.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing the Independent News Network where he was doing weather for like 7,000 stations across the country, but he lived in Davenport for 2 years.
Yeah.
I tried to get him on because I'd ask him, what the heck were you doing coming here? Did you want to see snow in person or something? Because that made no absolute sense to me why he came up here. But anyway, there was that. Several people in Des Moines have left to go elsewhere. At least that I can know of. I know one person just left WHO and is now in Kansas City.
Another big severe weather market.
Yeah, because I had Busby on a couple back in early December.
Oh, yeah?
I complained to him that he stole Nick Bender. He did. Because it seems quite funny that the minute Gary England, I'm going to rant some more. The minute Gary England announced, I'm going away, goodbye, that everybody at that station leaves in mass. That the only people left are Jed, who used to work in this market,
Mm-hmm.
and David Payne. That's it. That's why Cassie had to go there, because she was all the replacements of all the people that were leaving. They all left in mass and ran off.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that their storm chasers didn't all run off too. They stayed. Thank goodness for them, because if Val had left, who I tried to get on, if Val had left, that would have been the end. But I think the problem is Val Castor and his brother Vaughn, they hate the other stations. Vaughn worked with, well, the interesting thing is, and I probably know too much about this already, Val and his wife Amy live in Stillwater. Vaughn lives somewhere in the eastern, I think Muskogee, which is in the Tulsa market. Vaughn does a lot of storm chasing, did a lot of storm chasing for Fox 23 in Tulsa for years. But Val's been with Channel 9 in Oklahoma City. Now, Griffin, which owns Channel 9 in Oklahoma City, owns Channel 6 in Oklahoma City. When Vaughn finally left Fox 23 and went to Channel 6, Vaughn started chasing for Channel 9. So now Griffin can say, ooh, we have the Castor brothers. Ooh, we're great now. And my peanuts just fell over. So.
Whoops.
But it was closed. And I've lost track of where I was going. But with
the Castor brothers.
Yeah, the Castor brothers. So I'm thinking they're not going to go to uppity Channel 4 guy. Won't mention his name. But everybody knows who I'm talking about. Mike Morgan. And Channel 5, Channel 5 is probably a lot better than it used to be, Damon Lane's station.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because they hired, and they just did hire, Michael Armstrong, who was Gary England's right-hand man at Channel 9 during severe weather coverage. Because if you watch severe weather coverage from years and years and years, for at least in the last decade, before David Payne came, at Channel 9, it was Gary and Mike Armstrong. Those two together. Now Michael Armstrong's at Channel 5.
Why would... Here's my question, and this is a spring chicken question. Why would, since Gary England is no longer on TV anymore, but he's still there, he still shows up to work there every day, why would everybody jump ship?
That's speculation. I think it's because it may have been that the writing was on the wall that Channel 9's severe weather coverage was going to change, and it was going to be something that they weren't going to be agreeable to. Because I think in the fact that David Payne doesn't want to be in a studio. It's fairly evident he would rather be out there and not be in a studio. You could see it. All you have to do is look at May 6th of last year, the Bridge Creek tornado.
Yep.
And I watched that on live stream. He complained, oh, I used to do this. Oh, ho, hum. He complained. He was like always talking about what he used to do. It's almost like he's begging to go back to doing that. But they can't, because David Payne is the face of Channel 9 now, because all the other people are what I would call young whippersnappers. They're not known. Nobody knows who these people are. And you're not gonna yank Jed Castles out of the morning show and move him to being on and be the face of the station when he's been the morning guy for many years.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he would be quote unquote cut out to do it that much, especially in Oklahoma when there's like tornadoes all the time from like
and that kind of a pressure cooker.
Yeah, given that he's in the morning, he typically is he gets there, he's pretty much there to back up anybody if severe weather threat goes late as into the overnight, then he comes in and takes over.
Mm-hmm.
Because you go back and look at, which is unfortunately it's not on YouTube, El Reno Day.
Okay.
Gary England left before the 10 o'clock news. He was not seen because Nick Bender took over.
Right.
And Nick had been doing the doing the radio work and whatnot on the Gettner, which I want a Gettner now. I want to have all this stuff. But anyway, and I found that very eerie. It wasn't until Gary was on Weather Brains when he said that he had called his wife, Mary. Mary came to pick him up and said, "That's it, I'm done." And they drove home. And that's why he retired. Because he wasn't going to retire yet. The El Reno day was what more or less drove him to retirement. And that's why he retired only about 2 months later. Or 3 months later. He retired in August of 2013. His contract had him until, or 2014. What year was El Reno? 2013. And he retired in August, at the end of August that year.
Mm-hmm. At the end of the severe weather season.
His contract, I think, had him go through 2016, was this year. I think he was going to, or it may have been even the end of this past year. But I think he's still at Channel 9 to a certain extent, but he very rarely does stuff. That's why he said he took this job at OU, which he now has.
Mm-hmm.
He's like everywhere. I mean, the man is like 70. Gosh, how old is he now? I think he'll be 77 this year.
I wish I had half his energy.
He still does his the pressure cooker that he's in. He doesn't have to worry about forecasting anymore. He doesn't have to worry about tornado outbreaks anymore. I'm thinking he still works, but it's a lot less pressure.
But he still gets to be a weather geek, which is what he really likes to do.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to worry about what the other guy, what the Mike Morgans and the David Paynes are doing anymore. He gets to worry about him watching the weather instead of him worrying about his ratings and the other guys and all that stuff that goes on with being the most competitive severe weather market in the country and possibly the world.
I was like thinking when Henry and I went to NWA in Oklahoma City, I'm like, oh, because this is the first time I'd ever been to an NWA meeting. So I'm like seeing all these weather people. I'm like, woo.
Starstruck?
No, I was, well, yeah. But anyway,
I would be.
I'm driving down. We were driving in Oklahoma City. It was like 7:30 at night because we spent too much time driving around Joplin.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're driving into Oklahoma City. The first person I see standing on the street corner waiting to cross the street is none other than Jim Cantori.
Really?
So I'm like, ooh, Jim Cantori. And Henry's like, who cares? So I'm like, well, it's a weather person, so hush up. And I saw Jim Cantori numerous times, but I never got up to meet him because I'm too shy about meeting these people because I thought I'd interrupt or something or other or whatnot. Because I mentioned this during Busby's episode. That's probably why Busby invited me to go eat barbecue in Kansas City.
Nice.
It's kind of creepy and weird, but anyhow, so. And I saw Busby there at NWI. There was all these people I saw at NWI, and I'm like, oh, I already know these people. I'm not starstruck, mainly for the fact I had emailed so many people to be on my show, or they'd been on my show. I must have seen at least 10 or 12 former guests of the show, or in the case of Busby, future guests that were on the show that were there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, there's him and her and them and whatever. It's like, okay. I'm like, I'm not starstruck except for the fact when I saw Chuck Doswell, that scared me.
I would love to meet Chuck Doswell.
No, Chuck Doswell will be at the Iowa Severe Weather Conference at the end of March and early April in Ankeny.
I'll be there.
Are you going there?
I'm going to do as much as I possibly can to avoid not going. Let's say that. Because things change. I'm a military guy. There's always something that could happen to change my plan, but I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that does not happen.
Meaning you're going to try to go, but it's not 100%.
Yeah, it's not 100% set in stone, but if things are looking the way they're looking now, I'll be there.
Well, hopefully. So, but the only former guest of Polygon that will be there that I know will be there is Tim Marshall.
That would be awesome. Well,
Tim Marshall's been on this show. And he had some choice things to say about people, which I didn't record. I recorded that part because, he went off. So anyway, but So, but there's a lot of people there. But at NWA, I was like, all these people, I'm like, oh, who cares, all these people. But the interesting thing was about it was, and the thing that really pissed me off was what I found out after the fact. But anyway, so, and I'm like, there's these people and all this stuff. I ended up, when we were at Cheesecake Factory, which I talked about when we were driving around, Cheesecake Factory, clear on the north end of Oklahoma City, far from the hotel. Who happens to be there? Weather people.
And weather people know where to eat too.
Yeah, and God, it was Tim Simpson, who's at WREG in Memphis, was there with, I think, his wife might have been there, or it might have been somebody else, and I'm not going to mention it. And I probably just got myself in trouble because I think it was his wife. If it wasn't,
good job.
Yep, he won't be on, and I emailed him like months ago. So that's why he's not going to be on now. Anyway, and I was sharing an elevator going up to our room with Spencer Denton, who's at WMC in Memphis. And then I probably got him in trouble because he said a few days after he got back that, oh, I'd had laryngitis, but now I'm back at work. And I'm like, no, you sounded fine at NWA. So I probably got him in trouble. So I think I'm just causing trouble with everything. So. And then your
Iowa's accelerant. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, I'm the accelerant for. I did not go to the thing, to Weather Brains Live at OU at the Weather Center. I did not go.
That would have been a lot of fun, even just to watch.
Yeah, but ew, I got peanuts coming out of my teeth. Anyway, what I found out, because everybody was there, and I mentioned the fact that all the NWA new people were elected. Some of them I didn't vote for, but anyway. So, but I was gonna go, but I decided not to because it was kind of like an in. I didn't go, but and here's the interesting thing: I have never watched that episode. The episode that they were there, I didn't watch it. Not planning on watching it. Because from what I was told by other people, especially Mike, who was supposed to go with us, but then he had a medical problem and had to have surgery, and then he couldn't go because he was going to share our hotel room with me and Henry, and blah, 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 blah. But then all that went down. So then he watched it and said, oh, to be on that show, you have to be pretty. That's what he said. It's like, well, given the fact I've been on Weather Brains twice, and yes, I have been on Weather Brains twice. And I was actually a scheduled guest.
Cool.
Guess what happened that day?
What?
Severe weather.
Oh, really? So they blew out the whole show?
No, severe weather here.
Oh, severe weather here? What day was that?
This was about the drought of 2012. Drought. You know what happens in drought? No rain. So they scheduled it I think first Monday in September of 2012.
Pretty innocuous day, usually.
What happened? Maybe it was the first Tuesday. I don't remember. Maybe it was the Monday after Labor Day, something like that. What happens? The faucet turns on, and now it's raining all over the place again. We have severe weather, and right before the showtime, there's like a tornado warning in southwestern Wisconsin. Which, if you look at my Twitter account and you see the background with those clouds, that's the thunderstorm in Wisconsin on that day.
Oh, really?
That storm was 60 miles away, and it looked that good. It was back. Wow. And it had a tornado on the ground with it. So I'm all going crazy. And this is like within 45 minutes of me having to be on. So I'm already like freaking out already.
What do you do? Big storm, Weather Brains.
So, and unfortunately, I was able to start doing stuff, and I acted like a complete idiot. But anyway, the Hangout died. And at that point, I'm like, I think I sent a thing to Span saying, don't invite me because I'm going to just drop off and whatnot. So I was on for maybe about 15 minutes and hardly talked. So, but that counts because the other time I was on was when I won a book.
Oh, cool.
So, and I still have it. Anyway, so there's that. So I think we discussed everything for like 2 hours. 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours, yeah.
Oh, goody. It's still not the longest episode yet, because unfortunately the infamous episode when Mike and I were on, that was 3 hours. So
Really?
I want to go 3 hours. My voice can't handle through another half an hour. But anyway, outside of that, it's January. It's cold.
Waiting for drag racing season and waiting for severe weather season.
And hopefully not at the same time.
Pretty much. Although seeing a tornado at a drag strip with a Nitro Funny car going down the track, I know that's really uber dangerous, but that would be just somewhat cool to me.
That would be your Nirvana right there.
Pretty much. That would be my Mount Everest right there.
I just want to see a tornado. I'd rather see it in the middle of nowhere. But
of course.
Since I don't go chasing, and I don't want to because it's expensive, I'd rather not do that, because
you can still chase, but just do what I do, which is set yourself a limit, decide what your limit's going to be.
My limit may be 5 miles.
Fine, go out. When you see a storm within 5 miles, say, okay, I'm going to go out.
This brings up another point that I had, because this happened about a year or two ago. There's this risk, I think it was a moderate risk day, and I'm like tweeting about it and all this stuff, blah 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 blah. And I think we had a 10% tornado risk or something like that. It wasn't it wasn't the Parkersburg day, but it was some other day later on. And somebody sends me a tweet. Guess who?
Who?
Reed Timmer.
Really?
Sent me a tweet asking if I was going to go chasing. I hadn't been chasing since 2003. This was, I think, in like 2012 or 20. It was, I think, in 2013.
Really?
It may have been 2011 or something like that. And I'm like,
don't take this the wrong way, but did he confuse you with Dan Gottschalk?
No, because Dan is the one who took the tornado video at that corner from 50 yards away.
Right.
Because no, Dan is one of our chasers on the network.
Right, but think of who Reed is and how much he does not pay attention.
Well, where was Reed the last 2 weeks of the year? Getting married in Central America.
That's true.
And he missed possibly the biggest tornado outbreak of the year, getting married.
Well, that's
at least his priorities were set. I remember dumping his soon-to-be wife to go chase a tornado. He went to Central America and said, "Nope, sorry."
Roll the breaking news, because he actually broke his own promise.
What did he do now?
Do you remember a film called Tornado Glory that he put out?
Oh God, that one.
With the May 4th video?
I remember that was the first time I saw Reed and Joel on TV. Yeah. And all I heard them do was complain like a married couple.
That's all they do. They just need to get... Never mind, I'm not going to go there.
Joel doesn't chase anymore.
He does.
It's not only when he wants to. Because it sounded like because he went down. He was he was one of the best men in Reed's wedding, I think.
I know of him chasing as recently as... I can't remember what day right off the top of my head, but it was this year. And he chased with Reed like once. So he's still getting out there, but I think he's still doing his real estate thing.
That often with Reed, because he and Reed clash too much.
Yeah. But in that video, in that DVD, and I have the DVD, he said, I would skip my own wedding to chase a tornado if there was a tornado that day.
Well, you didn't do that.
Nope. He broke his own promise.
But then I think he thought...
Not that I blame him for that.
December was not going to be tornado season. He happened to pick an El Nino year when tornadoes will go any time of the year.
Yeah. That's just bad luck on his part.
But but there's a difference. Tornado Glory was what, 07?
6.
06. Mm-hmm. There's a difference between Reed Timmer of 06 and Reed Timmer 10 years later.
This is
It's
true.
not. It's not this. He is 10. He still is considered completely crazy.
Yeah, that's completely agreeable. But Reed Timmer 06 would have definitely hopped a plane back to the States.
Reed Timmer wouldn't have gone to Central America to begin with, because he left to go to Central America the day before the event.
That's true. That is true. I remember. Yeah, he would have said, "Screw this! I'm staying here and chasing."
Yeah, and then his soon-to-be wife would have probably not been his wife, although she's also a weather person, so she probably would have gone with him. Like, screw the Central America thing. Let's go get married with a tornado.
Yeah,
They would have done that too.
What a wedding photo, huh?
They wouldn't be the first to do that.
This is true.
I know
But they would have been the first to exchange vows in an extreme tornado video.
Oh, good Lord. Knowing Reed, he probably would have done that and got money out of it.
The first words out of his mouth after he said "I do" would have been, "Back up."
Okay, yeah, okay. Back up. We need to, or we need to do this.
Or back up. We're too dang close to the stupid tornado. Yeah.
One thing I noticed when I was at NWA in Oklahoma City, no Reed Timmer. He was not there.
It's probably a breath of fresh air.
I did see David Payne. I did see Damon Lane, mainly because Damon Lane did a thing during the broadcasters conference. Mike Morgan was not there.
I'm pretty sure that there's a bounty on his head still. That's just my own personal opinion.
In fact, I noticed that I don't think there was anybody from K4 there, which was very
none of the field guys or anything, even the pilot.
None of the storm chasers, all the storm trackers they got in Oklahoma City, none of them were there that I noticed.
Oh, they would have been wearing like their blue polo or whatever.
That's in a few weeks in Norman. At the Embassy Suites, if you wanted to know. You should have already registered because unfortunately there is no same-day registration this year, according to Roger Hill.
That's okay. I can't afford a trip to Norman anyways.
And I'm sure everybody would want to go see the memorial they built south of El Reno where Tim and Carl and Tim's son died.
That will happen at some point.
The thing is, when I was at NWA, I didn't know about this, but it was a good thing I didn't waste the time to drive there because they hadn't put it up yet. They put it up about 2 weeks after.
Oh, really?
We were there in late October. So, but I have seen pictures. So, but there are people that have gone that went out there because it was marked even before they put the thing up. So,
yeah, they had the big cross and stuff, and they had Tim and Carl and Paul's pictures or something like that. Like kind of posted up there, like hung up or something.
Yeah, but there's a nice memorial there now, so
that's good. They deserve that.
It's marble, it's black marble, something like that.
So cool.
There's a picture of it. It might take me a while to find it.
Don't spoil it because I want to see it in person first.
Oh, good.
Please.
Oops.
That's kind of my thing. I want to see it for the first time in person, so I'm intentionally not looking for it online.
Yeah, don't look for it.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much going to be like when people go chasing, they always like congregate. The day of the El Reno tornado that day, everybody was in El Reno. I remember that because I had Spotter Network on right before the event, and everybody was.
So did I. So did I.
What's going to end up happening now? If anybody is ever around El Reno, let's say like the morning of an event, they're going to go to that memorial. It's going to be like a chaser thing now.
It's going to be like a chaser's. It's going to be like a
tourist attraction, except it's not. It's going to be like paying respects to.
It'll be a mobile chaser con, but more somber.
Yeah. It's going to be a place that chasers are going to go. So, And I mean, that area is flat. You can see. I don't
forever.
Think, I've never been out there, so. But I know I've been in Oklahoma several times.
I've been in I haven't been on Radio Road, but I've been on Reuter Road before. Not that that makes any real difference now that, not that I'm like cool now that I've been on the same road as all these chasers on this famous tornado day, but I have been there. In fact, a weird story really quick about that. When I went to basic training in Fort Sill, Oklahoma in 2001. And we went to a rodeo. I want to say it was about 6 weeks into basic training ish, somewhere in there. We went to a rodeo, and the ranch where the rodeo was on Reuter Road. Only I can't remember right off the top of my head, but it was way west of there.
Yeah.
But it was still on that same road, so I can say that I've been on that same road as all those chasers.
Yeah. You got lucky. If you wanted to go basic training, you get Oklahoma. A weather person gets sent to basic training in a weather area.
I started in June and ended in September, and it was 2000. It was 2001, so it wasn't a terribly active year.
Yeah.
I saw one thunderstorm the entire time I was there.
You had the Death Ridge.
Yep. It started pretty much. The Death Ridge started pretty much the day I got there and finished pretty much the day that I left.
Yeah.
It was so dry that almost half of the live firing events that we were scheduled to perform, we could not perform because it was so dry.
You would have started fires.
Yeah, we started fires with
you
tracers and artillery.
Fire. You would be
exactly.
fires. You don't want to start that.
No. There's a lot of brush down there. In the Wichita Mountains, it's all semi-arid desert down there. Yeah. And you get a lot of sagebrush and stuff, and that stuff just goes up now.
Yeah, it's almost similar to, say, California, Southern California, sort of.
Almost like, like the Southern San Joaquin Valley.
Yeah.
Yep. It's not.
And maybe out toward the Inland Empire if it wasn't so crowded with people.
Yeah. But that goes without saying.
Yeah, because I drove up, taking 35 south from Oklahoma City to Dallas when my father and I went to the race in Texas. Mm-hmm. Driving over the Arbuckles, which is the eastern extent of the Wichitas. And and all you see is it's just brown. Because we went in April, so spring was sort of coming. And it was just so odd. It just looked very brown. But
it's weird to see that, though, in April, to me anyway.
And this was like early to mid-April. But it was just odd to see that. Of course, driving over the Red River into Texas, and then when they had all that flooding last past spring, and they said the river got so high it almost went over the bridge. And the first thing I can remember is when I drove across that bridge, the river was so far down. And I'm thinking, how did the river go from being there when I drove across it to being almost up to the point it was going to go over it? That boggles my mind that 35 almost got shut down, which would have been horrible. Try to cross that was, I think, one of the only few arteries that was still open from going in between Texas and Oklahoma, because all the other ones had been flooded.
There's only one other way into Texas, or over the border, I'll say, over the river, in that general area, and that's just a little piddly like state highway or something like that, right?
Something like that.
Like some farm bridge or something over the border that chasers always use.
Yeah, they don't want to take 35.
Nope.
Because there's that casino on the Oklahoma side.
Mm-hmm.
And that tends to be crowded.
and then you get backed up, and then you got to backtrack, and you usually got to skip either east or west, depending on where the storm's at, and it's a headache. There's never storms on 35 on the Red River.
Yeah. If in that case, if there was a storm, say southwest of there, which would be probably directly west of Gainesville, just take, I think it's 82. I believe it's 82, and go east as far as you can, and then cross the Red River somewhere else.
US 82, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'm trying to remember. So I'm a geography person, so I'm trying to remember roads. And down there, I've only been down there once, going down to Texas. But
it's been, if I'm not mistaken, US 281 goes down there as well.
In that general area, I think it's slightly further west.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's somewhere in that area.
281 somewhere between. It's somewhere west of 35, but it's not right near it. I think it's further west.
Okay.
And I'm not looking at maps. I could go find one of my atlases, but it's somewhere maybe about 20 or 30 miles further west. But it's not all the way, let's say, like to Wichita Falls.
Okay.
No, it's not that far. But I think we should wrap it up, because I'm starting to lose the plot and and whatnot. So.
And my voice is getting raspier and raspier by the minute. So.
Yeah, and
good idea.
And I'm going to need to open another bottle of pop, because my mouth's getting dried out. So.
Good idea.
So for everybody, next week we'll see what's going to happen next week with anybody happening and whatnot. So.
I'll be glad to come back on if you'll have me.
Yeah. We'll see. we may become a co-host if push comes to shove.
Hey.
On times when you're available, because I'm not going to force you to do stuff. But anyway,
it's a weather geek show, and I'm a weather geek.
Yeah, we might cause trouble, but anyway.
That's okay.
Matt, if anybody wants to get a hold of you and whatnot, how can they?
Twitter, I'm at WXBoy.
Except I love he's not a boy; he's a man.
Yep, I'm a fully grown man, but my wife actually gave me that name. She actually, for my birthday a couple years ago, actually made me a Weather Boy T-shirt. It's red because she says I look great in red. Don't know why. That's just what that's her own mind going. But it's got what looks like the symbol of an app. It's in a square, and then it's got a little cloud and a little tornado and a lightning bolt and a snowflake. And then on the back, it looks like a jersey. It says Weather Boy, and then where the number usually is, it says F5. So that's how I got that Twitter handle. But that's my I'm on Twitter. I'm fairly regular as far as posting with that. I'm on Facebook. My email is matthew.schess, SCHIESS @gmail.com. I check it fairly regularly, so ask me a question or just chat with me. I'm fairly easy to talk to.
Yeah. But by the way, and I'll make a mention of this, before I get off of this, and then I'm going to shut it off, because we're going to get the NWA has their new people. I'm not going to list it, but there's people. So they're new people that got elected that I voted on, and some I didn't vote for. So you can there's that. I did email Janice Bunting, who is the director of NWA.
That would be cool.
I did this during this break where I was, and I'm trying to I'm lobbying. I'm a lobbyist to try to get the.
That's a dangerous term.
Yeah,
especially here in this time.
To get the 2018 NWA annual meeting in Cedar Rapids. Because 2018 would be 10 years after the flood. And 10 years after Parkersburg.
Yeah.
And the Boy Scout camp tornado. And about 10 years after everything. So I'm Bobby. And she wrote me back, and they're going to consider it.
Really?
They more or less want to do it in that year in the Southeast again. I don't know why, but they are considering my idea. So I'm thinking, yay. The sad thing is, if they do that, I would probably be the one that has to run it. I am not good at running things, but anyway.
I know some people that are.
Because I thought the first thing that would be done is the city has gotten a lot better from the flood, except there's still a lot of empty spaces up in, especially Time Check. I drove through there a couple of weeks ago, and it's so eerie that it looks like just parkland.
Breaking news, though, about that, actually.
Uh-oh.
I work for a concrete company here in Cedar Rapids. And coming up next year, we are doing some work in that general area. It looks like
AKA flood wall?
I'm sorry?
Is it the AKA flood wall?
No, we don't do that kind of stuff. We do flat work only.
Are you ripping up the streets?
No, we don't do much. We don't do much with streets. We do sidewalks, but as far as city streets, we don't do paving.
Ripped up already, so
we do commercial flat work. That makes up about 90% of our business, and the rest is a little bit of residential stuff here and there, driveways, patios, and stuff. But like the new gas station that's going up at the corner of Forever Green Road and 965, we're doing all the concrete work for that as we speak.
Yes, and the bad thing is with it being so cold, you got to cover it up or it's going to crack.
If you drive by it, there's about 500 black blankets on it right now as we speak. We laid all those down yesterday.
Yeah.
It was miserable.
Yeah, and this brings up a point with me down here where I live. Just down the street from me, they're building some what I would call duplexes. Mm-hmm. They're kind of like duplex. They're all connected. They didn't start building. They didn't start putting in the foundation until late October. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, you should have thought about doing that like a month before, because we had that snowstorm in November.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have any walls up or a roof up, and then it snowed. They were lucky enough that snow melted really quickly and the temperature jumped back to 50. They got the walls up. They got the walls up on all of it, and then we had our second snowstorm.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had to get all that snow out. They have now put the roof on, and it's all enclosed now. And then we had the little dusting yesterday and into today.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not enclosed because there's no windows, but it's
right.
a lot better that it's going to be a little more protected. So the first thing I thought of about it was, why did they wait too long to build stuff?
That's not really that late.
If they get it
going into October,
if it's enclosed, you can keep building all winter. But it's kind of bothersome that they're doing that, especially when they're mucking up the street,
right.
And then they try to plow the street and then they can't. So then it's the street a mess, and that's one of the only ways to get into my neighborhood because they didn't do this properly. So they muck up the street, they piss everybody off in my neighborhood. And I'm certainly not going to want to take the long way to get out, or even the longer way to get out. So, but there's that. So,
alrighty,
all my problems. So yes, Matthew, you can now get off and do stuff, and get yourself unraspy. So
yeah, I need to drink some tea.
Yes, he's going to drink some tea.
All right, have yourself a good night.
Okay, you too.
All right, we'll talk later.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
So thanks for joining us. We will hope to be back next week. So thank you, and have a good rest of your weekend and the next week as well.